Please be seated. Good evening and welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Will Lane, the Mayor. In June 2017, 72 of our residents tragically lost their lives in the fire at Grenfell Tower. I ask every member of this Council to pay our deepest and continuing respects in the conventional manner by marking the moment with 72-second silence now. Would everyone please stand? Please be seated. Item number 1 is the minutes of the previous meeting. The minutes have been circulated. Are they agreed as a correct record?
Mr Mayor, could we include Councillor Issay's vote in the Conservative group vote? Thank you.
With that extra inclusion, are the minutes of that meeting agreed? Item number 2, declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare a disclosable pecuniary or any other significant interest in any item being considered at tonight's meeting? Item number 3, special announcements by the Mayor. I would like to invite every member of this Council and members of the public to the Mayor's Charity Boxing Showdown taking place on Saturday, the 10th of May at 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the Great Hall at Kensington Town Hall. The event is designed to raise awareness and funds for the Kensington and Chelsea Foundation and their mental health projects in our borough, which I'm deeply passionate about and what inspired me to initiate the event. In that event, I and Councillor Folkes, as well as 18 other dedicated recruits, have been enrolled on a training programme led by Fit for Life Youth at its North Kensington gym. We'll put all of our training to the test when we step into the ring on the 10th of May for 10 exciting bouts, food and drink, and a special half-time quiz hosted by Sean Wallace from The Chase. The ticket sales are closing soon, so please do contact the Mayor's office to get your tickets and come along and join us for an exciting night. Thank you. Item number 4. Chief Executive, are there any apologies for absence or lateness from tonight's meeting?
Thank you. Yes, apologies for absence from Councillors Fawkes, Lindsay, Marshall and Adam. And apologies for lateness from Councillors Idris, Knight, Bennett and Simmons. Sorry, and Councillor Bennett's just...
Perfect. Thank you. Item number 5 is public speaking. I will invite those who have registered in advance to address the Council for no more than 5 minutes each. A member of the leadership team and a member of the principal minority party will then be able to respond for up to 2 minutes each. We have 6 people who've registered to speak. The purpose of this part of the Council meeting is for those who live, work or study in our borough to raise awareness of local concern. So I would like to thank all the speakers for coming here tonight. For the benefit of members and those watching, can I ask all speakers to start your 5 minutes by saying who you are and if you're speaking on your own behalf or on behalf of others. So with that all said, Mr. Michael Hallows, could you please address the Council for up to 5 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And many thanks for the opportunity to do this. It's the second time I have addressed a full meeting of Council. So my question today, as a resident of the Little Boltons, Redcliffe Ward, is what action will the Council now take to avoid the cumulative effect of granting multiple simultaneous planning applications in one street, which is causing unnecessary adverse effects, including excessive noise, suspended parking bays, traffic congestion, illegal parking, disregard for planning regulations and policies, followed by inadequate enforcement, all of which collectively impact on every resident's right to a family life. I should just mention that my question is something of a dress rehearsal for Councillor Kamali, who has very kindly agreed to meet residents and our MP about this on Friday. We're particularly interested in the Human Rights Act aspects. Nevertheless, I would like all councillors, please, to be aware of what I'm about to explain as the context, especially those who sit on the Planning Committee. There are 2 points to my context. One is the cumulative effect, and the other is the dangers to road users. So the cumulative effect, right now, Little Boltons on Redcliffe Ward, in the 200-metre stretch between Tregunta Road and Redcliffe Square, the Council has approved 8 simultaneous major construction projects, all lasting between 2 and 8 years. In the majority of these, the homeowners are not present for the duration. From May, 7 properties out of 12 on the west side will have scaffolding. 7 out of 12 complete frontages have their residence parking bays suspended. On the east side, 4 out of 12 properties are under long-term construction, with their residence bays also suspended. The levels, as you can imagine, of concurrent construction, noise, dust and traffic disruption are unbearable for actual residents. And second, to dangers to road users. You may know that the Little Boltons is the principal access and egress route for Bousfield Primary School. Every weekday, we have multiple simultaneous contractors with their delivery lorries and vans blocking the streets and pavements, forcing pedestrians out onto the road. Residents must also negotiate driving head-on into oncoming vehicles due to double parking. So what have council officers done about this? I have to report very little that has had any positive effect. Residents must routinely report breaches of planning regulations and illegal parking because there is little or no proactive enforcement, not least by the construction management, noise and nuisance teams. And that's despite the concentration of works I've described. Julian Trill, the manager of those teams, has advised, and I quote from his email, a scaffolding vehicle or any vehicle delivering to a construction site can double park if there's no space available on either yellow lines or in a parking bay. Clearly, he has not read the Council's own guide, a code of practice, scaffolding in RBKC, a brief guide that prohibits all the behaviours he just described. It's not just about construction. The cumulative impact affects trees. Since 1999, when I first moved into the street, we have lost 17 mature trees from the rear gardens on the west side. It means that I now have uninterrupted views of my neighbours from Coleherne Court in the north all the way down to Tregunta Road. When I pointed out this cumulative effect, I was informed by Angus Morrison, your arboriculturalist, that each application to fell is based on its individual merits. And I'll also quote him, "We get 800 applications to fell trees every year. Often the best we can do is refer to Google Earth and Street View when making a decision." May I just implore you as councillors, as me as one of your long-term residents, this is not good enough. Our lives are being affected by decisions that you are making, and then council officers are not then enforcing. So hence my question again, what action will you now take to avoid the cumulative effect on residents of your council officers' inaction? Thank you.
Councillor Kamali, would you respond to up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Michael, and perhaps not the dress rehearsal, but maybe the first act of our play together this week. And as you say, I do look forward to seeing you on Friday with the local MP. I think there's lots of myriad factors here. There's obviously the sort of the national picture of how planning permissions are granted and against which development plans they have to be judged. As you know, there's not a current position where the consideration has to be taken of sequential or sort of simultaneous development. I suspect with the Labour Party's position on growth at almost any cost at the moment, given where they are with GDP figures, I suspect they'll be pushing even harder. I can't imagine they'll be looking to try and restrict activity. But what that means is it puts more burden on us and it puts more burden on the council officers. So I'm disappointed to hear about the trees, especially because each tree is part of a whole, and you'll see we have a motion here tonight to try and even put tree protection orders on a whole street worth of trees. So I'm certainly going to pick that up between now and Friday as to whether or not we can sort of look at the trees in the vicinity just to make sure that we are really carefully considering all of them. On enforcement, I think colleagues around me know enforcement is perhaps the topic I like discussing most. We've certainly really upped our enforcement game on fixed penalty notices in the area. The construction team is one of those where I think we do need a little bit more, work and maybe a little bit more capacity. I know the team have, of all the FPNs they've issued, it's about a sixth of the entire borough's penalty notices have been issued in the Bolton's conservation area, so they're certainly output-wise, it is heavily weighted to the area, but as you say, it's because there is just so much development going on there. I think I've said it to my colleague, Councillor Kim Teddy-Smith, but if I was to come again, it would be as a scaffolder, because they seemingly can get away with absolutely anything, and they make a fortune in doing so. They are my particular bugbear. I've been known to pick up their bits of scaffolding and wander off with it. I will happily do that for the Boltons as well, but I'd rather it's delegated down to the officers. So I'm keen that on Friday we really look at some tangible outcomes that we might be able to bring forth, I'm aware of time, and just make sure that we do have sort of a work plan altogether that we can be pushing forward on. So thank you. Sorry, Mayor.
Councillor Lari, would you like to respond to up to 2 minutes?
Sure. Firstly, I could not agree with you more. I'm a Labour Party councillor. I can't speak for the national government, but on a local government level, from my experience and many residents, it's usually Labour Party councillors on the committee who are asking the pertinent questions and holding officers' decisions, or officers' recommendations to account. The proliferation of simultaneous applications approved by local councillors, particularly for basement excavations, is a nightmare for council taxpayers who cannot defend themselves with no support from the council whatsoever. To be frank, we've got planning and construction management completely wrong as a borough. Cumulative impact is legally a legitimate planning consideration, which is usually ignored by those responsible for approving applications, aka the local councillors. As well as the Little Boltons, and I note, for example, 9 Little Boltons was a case that came to the committee a couple of months ago, which was an excellent example of cumulative impact, which is completely ignored. But Little Boltons aside, there's other areas in Chelsea as well, Milner Street, First Street, all those areas with narrow, windy roads, where the committee has ignored the geography of the area, which makes cumulative effect even more enhanced. The effect is actually even more so than a major commercial development of some of those roads, because you have multiple excavations happening at any one time. So ultimately, whilst officers are responsible for enforcement. They work within the framework that they're given. It's local councillors who are elected who are responsible for approving those applications, who are responsible for listening to residents, asking the questions at the committee, and then voting. So it is them who you should be holding to account. And therefore, in conclusion, the best way of achieving that change is at the ballot box, unfortunately, until the council itself can commit to actually changing its local plan and enforcement, and then officers can then act upon it. So that's my response to you. I'm fully in agreement with everything that you've said.
Thank you, Mr. Hallows, for coming to speak tonight. Mr. Christopher Welch, would you now please address the Council for up to 5 minutes?
Thank you. Good evening, councillors. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Chris Welsh. I must first declare that neither I nor fellow resident Sam Morland, on whose behalf I speak, have any commercial interest whatsoever in the proposal I'm about to give to you. In 2020, this council declared a climate emergency, committing to urgent action to reach net zero by 2030. With that target now less than 5 years away, we must be honest about what meaningful action towards that goal looks like. Today, I propose a simple but powerful action for RBKC to transition to 100% plant-based catering at all internal council meetings, canteens and events starting immediately. If you take one thing away from this today, let it be that this is not about asking individuals to change their personal diets. If that were the case, I'd be talking to individuals out on the street. This is about RBKC as an institution taking responsibility and setting an example for others to follow. And we should make this transition not because our constituents are plant-based, but for 3 reasons that they demand we attend to, each of which I will now address: climate, health, and cost. First, on climate, natural disasters are increasing. In 2021, 500 properties in our borough were flooded due to climate breakdown. Yet, despite increased frequency of these events, the role of animal agriculture in driving climate change remains criminally unnoticed. Animal agriculture contributes more than double the greenhouse gas emissions of plant-based agriculture, yet it provides less than half the protein and a quarter of the calories that we eat. Up until now, only subsidies have propped up this gas-guzzling industry, allowing it to maintain cost parity with plant-based foods. The UK's National Food Strategy has already made clear that reducing meat consumption by 30% is essential to reach net zero targets. We've taken small steps, such as meat-free days in catering. But to make RBKC stand out as a true leader, a full transition to 100% plant-based catering is what's needed. Meat-free Mondays are already widespread elsewhere. We can do better by making a strong, decisive move to 100% plant-based, showing authority in our commitment to the future. Secondly, why plant-based catering is better for our health. Diets in high red and processed meat are linked to heart disease, certain cancers and type 2 diabetes, serious health issues that put unnecessary pressure on our NHS and local health services. It gets worse. Animal agriculture is a significant driver of zoonotic diseases, those that jump from animals to humans. COVID-19 demonstrated the risks involved to all. While we cannot control all animal agriculture, we can take action by supporting plant-based food systems that are safer and healthier, securing a more stable future for all. We owe it to ourselves to protect our communities, children's, and traditions of health and safety. RBKC's own public health strategy highlights childhood obesity as one of its top priorities, and plant-based diets are part of the solution. The Eat Lancet Commission has called for plant-rich diets as the best path for both public and planetary health. They prevent chronic diseases, support healthy weight, and are nutrient-rich and protein-rich. It's not about removing choice from individuals, it's about what we as an institution choose to normalise and endorse, especially in publicly funded spaces. Third and finally, why plant-based catering actually costs less. We all know the immense pressure on public budgets. Every pound counts, but councils like Cambridge, Oxford and Hythe have already found that plant-based catering is often cost-neutral or cheaper. Plant-based foods generally have a longer shelf life, reducing spoilage and waste, which means fewer resources spent on replacing food. And the long-term savings are significant. Healthier food choices reduce the risk of diet-related illnesses, which can in turn reduce sick days and long-term healthcare So, to conclude, what we are asking today is not radical. It's not a ban or a judgment on anyone's personal food choices. It's a leadership decision. A decision to uphold the dignity and future of this council, to show responsibility and authority in our actions, and to respect the sanctity of the environment we are entrusted with. This proposal is simple, symbolic, and smart. It supports our climate strategy, public health strategy, and fiscal responsibility. And it requires no complex infrastructure or additional legislation to implement. RBKC was one of the first councils in London to declare a climate emergency. It can lead again by becoming the first Conservative-led council in the country to adopt 100% plant-based catering at all internal meetings, canteens and events. Thank you.
Councillor Thalasites, would you please respond for up to 2 minutes?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Chris, for coming. It's great to see you coming to full council to advocate for change. It certainly raises the visibility and awareness of these issues. I enjoyed the conversation that we had with Stephanie, your Northern councillor, about catering in the town hall a few weeks ago. And as we discussed, the council has already cut back considerably on catering for meetings. So we do sometimes have hot drinks and water and possibly even a few biscuits. But we have made lots of environmental progress. For example, stopping using single-use plastics, which I know SOF campaigned a lot on. And really that just leaves catering in our canteen. I'm pleased to say that we offer a vegetarian or vegan option every day, which I think is the right thing to do. But I think where I'm probably starting from with this conversation is that people should have a choice every day when they come into work about what they eat, which means that everybody's dietary needs should be met. They should have the option no matter what their dietary needs are, but that when they come in, they should be able to decide between different choices. Certainly the education piece that you've flagged today is worthwhile, and certainly if people want to make those choices and move to a more plant-based model, I think probably people's choices will push what we offer in that way, because ultimately we want to serve the things that people want to eat. But I'm afraid probably I don't think it's the right thing for us to constrain choice by offering solely plant-based meals right now. I think it's really important that we're catering for the widest possible need within the council. I note what you've said about the climate emergency, and I think you're absolutely right that it's one of the key things this council needs to take forward. We need to be a greener borough, and we've made a lot of progress on that front. Hopefully there's lots of other things that we can work on. I know there's already a lot happening in Norland, for example, whether it's tree planting or retrofitting, but I'm afraid and I'm happy to discuss this with colleagues once the contract comes up for renewal, but I think probably where I'm coming from is that piece around independent choice on these issues.
Councillor Benton, would you like to respond for up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, as both a vegan for 20 years and a Vulgar Socialist councillor in RBKC, I am used to being ahead of the curve. But frankly, making our officers eat what I eat is just something I would not be willing to support. I'm in agreement with my colleague, Councillor Thalasites. Would you believe? And of course I do. I do. The point is well taken, that there's the current measures, I would also say, that are mentioned in the question, do amount in large parts to, for example, with EVs, penalising people who can't afford one. There's a lot of the approach to the climate, which it's just not, frankly, in my view, worth the burden that we're putting on the poorest people in our community. And when it comes to here, I think we have some of the most dedicated and hard-working officers, and the idea of making them, you know, eat plant-based meals when they're at work is just not something I would sign off on. I mean, the climate crisis is happening. I mean, it's happening now. So many policies that are discussed are frankly too little, too late. And I think these answers that you're identifying or gesturing towards in your question sit with a lot of the legacy of the last 40 years, particularly of public policy. And it's a supply-side issue. If you have, as you say, these industries are supported by subsidies, get rid of the subsidies. If I thought it was worth it, if I thought it would make a dent then I'll be having a different conversation. But while I'm very sympathetic to a lot of what you say, I don't think this is a substantive solution, and I don't want to burden our officers with it. But thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Welsh, for coming in to speak tonight. Mr. Kieran Terry, I'd now like to invite you to please address the Council for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, councillors. I'm Kieran Terry. I'm a borough resident in Earls Court. Firstly, can I express my thanks to the council for their hard work in supporting Earls Court over the last few years. Since I first came to the borough a few years ago, we've seen a number of really positive improvements. The streets are cleaner, we see the council's enforcement teams around, and some of the investments locally have been really welcome. In particular, residents in Earls Court are very grateful for the work put in by the council to refurbish Hogarth Road, which has just reopened and now looks great. It's really pleasing to see already more people using the street. So my thanks to the council for making that happen, especially in light of one of the lowest council tax rises in London this year. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for Earls Court Road and Warwick Road, which is the central backbone of the Earls Court community. These are run by TfL, who don't engage with the community at all and refuse to listen to residents. We've recently had to put up with plans for a cycle lane on Warwick Road and a ridiculous 20-mile-an-hour speed limit introduced in 2023 that residents didn't want and is pointless, given the traffic is at a standstill for most of the day. Roadworks here have been pretty much constant for most of the last year. With respect to the cycle lane, a recent FOI request has shown over 2,000 emails between the Earls Court Development Company and TfL on the topic, with not a shred of communication with local residents about something which will cause chaos in our neighbourhood for years to come. The poor synchronising of traffic lights adds to the problems and mean the very frequent emergency services vehicles that use this road get caught in the traffic that backs up. Local residents are woken up regularly by sirens from emergency services vehicles that are desperately trying to squeeze through stuck traffic at the poorly timed traffic lights. Similarly, we have to tolerate the bus stop build-out on Earls Court Road, which back up traffic, causing road safety issues at the junction of West Cromwell Road and Earls Court Road. Let me be clear, I'm a bus user and a cyclist, but don't support the appalling schemes TfL are trying to impose on our community. Both myself and other local residents have contacted TfL, our Assembly member James Small-Edwards and MP Joe Powell repeatedly about issues on these roads. TfL don't engage with residents at all, and with respect to the latter two elected members, residents have had to repeatedly chase them, and after all that, we eventually just receive a copy-paste quote response from their contact at TfL. It's very interesting in the agenda pack here to see Councillor Petit and Councillor Retty's motion later in the agenda, which demonstrates TfL's contempt for local people isn't just limited to Earls Court. Earls Court Road and Warwick Road are the main streets of Earls Court. Both are sadly looking run down as a result of long-term neglect by TfL. This is having an impact on footfall of the local shops and restaurants, which is contributing to a decline in the retail offering in our area. I've seen the repeated jet washing the councils perform locally, the street sweeping provided, and the new buggies clearing up rubbish. However, this only goes so far. Earls Court needs proper investment, and the crumbling pavement needs replacing, as there is long-term staining and dirt that no amount of jet washing will fix, and the general condition is a risk to pedestrian safety. Indeed, I saw an elderly lady fall on the paving slabs a couple of weeks ago as a result of the poor surface. Hogarth Road and even roads not given recent refurbishment, such as Trebevere Road and Child's Place, really present a stark contrast to the state of Earls Court Road and Warwick Road. So my questions to the council are as follows. In Earls Court, we can see the stark difference between the roads run by the council and the ones run by TfL. Would the council support local residents in opposing the nightmare cycle lane on Warwick Road, and will the council also consider stepping in to invest in new paving for Warwick Road and Earls Court Road, where TfL have failed to act? Would the council also consider raising these comments with TfL directly? And whilst I've still got a little bit of time left, Chair, just one quick point, if you don't mind. I see here on the agenda, Councillor Wade is due to respond, and I thank her in anticipation for her response. At the beginning of the meeting, Mr Mayor, you said the principal opposition group should be the one responding on behalf of the opposition. So I'd like to know why the Labour group haven't bothered responding. Are you guys not interested in Earls Court? I mean, it's hard enough to get a response out of your party colleagues as it is. Thank you.
Councillor Kamali, would you please respond for up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An interesting point to finish on. Councillor Lowry speaks of taking action at the ballot box. And indeed, if you'd voted Labour at the last ballot box, you'd have found that you now have 2 independents, a Green, People's Workers' Party, I don't even know what the name of that party is anymore, and a whole smorgasbord of different party members trying to represent you. That's not really what people voted for, is it? And nor is it what they voted for in Earl's Court. But what they did vote for, and what you came to talk to us about just over a year ago, I looked back at the footage, and I think it was 370 days ago, you came to ask us to invest in Hogarth Road. And I'm sorry we took just over a year to get there, but we were sort of a little surprised when you came to ask, so it took us a little bit of time to get there. But you can see the proof is in the pudding. The road looks absolutely fantastic. You absolutely can see the difference between a Conservative-run piece of public highway and the Mayor of London's road. It's really a stark contrast. A stark contrast between Sadiq Khan's London and this Conservative Council's approach to our public realm. So we'll continue to invest in Earl's Court. You'll know that we have our design guide for shop fronts coming forth. I know Councillor Kim Taylor-Smith is working really hard to make sure that we're bringing some fantastic businesses to the area and trying to sort of keep away those that may bring the area down. We want to work with people to lift the area up. And we do want to work with TfL to lift the area up. We have had meetings with them. I feel as though it's sort of cases of déjà vu whenever you speak to TfL. They'll listen, they'll say, oh, that's interesting, and then nothing will happen, and you'll start again, and you'll do that over and over again. And I believe Councillor Thalasitis, in trying to get an acoustic camera on a TfL piece of road, has now spent a year and a half having repeatedly identical conversations with TfL. So we'll pick up the cudgel again, we'll try. But really, it comes down to just getting a new mayor. That's what we need. So thank you very much.
Councillor Wade, would you like to respond for up to 2 minutes?
Sorry. Thank you, Kieran, for your question, and it's one that many residents ask. There's no quick fix solution for a high street that has suffered from neglect from both City Hall and the borough. Where was the economic impact study on the closure of the exhibition centre? Nowhere. In the recent assessments of high streets, why was Earl's Court Road excluded? Where is the study on the reversion of the one-way system that Capco was supposed to deliver? TfL replaced the pavers some years ago, but the borough is responsible for cleaning. The jet wash schedule of 4 times a year is not sufficient given the high level of footfall and the fast food outlets. I did check it, Mr. Kamali. Going forward, does the borough have the relevant machinery to effectively clean the pavements? Is the scheduling of the present system of cleaning sufficient? Can the borough confirm that the bin design is going to change? The latest design creates more staining. The use of planning and licensing applications to ensure if sufficient on-site waste storage is available, that waste is collected from the business location and not on the pavements. Supporting the development of social responsibility with the cleaning of their frontages. If improvements are to be scheduled, it is essential that there's a coordinated plan, including how the area can be maintained and work with businesses for appropriate and responsible waste disposal. Everyone, because your question had a number of questions, everyone is concerned about the different aspect of the ECDC application, and that is for another day. So that covers your cycle lane on Warwick Road. And on the issue of Look Ahead Hostel on Warwick Road, please
Councillor Wade, could you conclude?
The Working Party report on the hostels. Hopefully the report will be the first step in a revised approach by the borough on their nominations, contracts and monitoring hostels. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry, for coming in to speak tonight. Thank you. Mr. Paul Block, would you please address the Council for up to 5 minutes?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening to the GMB members that have turned up this evening as well. Thank you for letting me address you this evening. My name is Paul Block, the GMB Union Regional Organiser responsible for our members working for the NSL contract on the RBKC Parking Services contract. I'm speaking to you at the request of our members, including GMB Branch Secretary Jackie Neild and GMB Convener Francis Esteves, who I'm glad are here in the room tonight, to clarify the GMB's position following a recent bringing parking services in-house motion. This was debated on the 29th of January. Councillor Dentcode's comments caused some consternation to our members. In that debate, Councillor Dentcode stated, "I have been lobbied by the union concerned to actually have this motion removed from the council because the workers involved have told their union they do not wish to be brought back into the council because after their strike they achieved far better pay and terms and conditions, and they are quite satisfied for the moment, and they have appealed to me, and I did pass this on to Councillor Bakhtar, but Councillor Bakhtar was determined to continue with the motion. To clarify our position, firstly, we have not lobbied Councillor Dentcode individually on this issue, and there are no other unions within this workplace as we have sole recognition with NSL. Secondly, the position of our members is that they desire to work directly for our BKC as they believe their terms and conditions would not have been allowed to fall off a cliff in the way that they had under NSL. I shouldn't have to remind you all that the reason our members working on this contract took industrial action was because their pay had eroded to the point where they were paid significantly less than neighbouring boroughs for doing the same job, whilst delivering income for your authority. This only changed because of the tenacity of our GMB convener, our GMB reps and our GMB members that stood together, and the pressure achieved through Councillor Bakhtar calling for an extraordinary meeting to address these issues which brought NSL to the table. The GMB's position is the position of our members. The vast majority, if not all, undoubtedly want to work directly for RBKC, and we request that this position is respected and listened to. We understand that currently each civil enforcement officer brings in approximately 5 times their salary in income, and we believe there is a compelling case to be made for bringing these important services in-house to the benefit of our members, RBKC and local residents. Thank you for listening to me today as I represent the views of our members that work hard for RBKC in challenging circumstances to ensure the borough is safe for all road users and pedestrians. Thank you.
Councillor Kamali, would you respond for up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Paul, for coming in. I'll start really by just thanking your members, but also just all the traffic wardens that we have, the CEOs on our streets. I vividly remember the meetings that we'd had with them over the last few years, and really just sort of going about their day. I've had many days out with them, seeing what they do. It is a very tough job. Nobody likes getting a ticket, absolutely not, and they handle it really with such courtesy and decorum. They are a credit to Kensington and Chelsea. You'll have heard, obviously, that we've debated the motion in this chamber a few weeks ago. Clearly, your question is slightly focused on sort of slight disjointed communication between former members of the Labour Party and the Labour Party themselves. So I'm keen to hear what Councillor Bakhtar says. I would simply say just in sort of closing that I was always quite disappointed that Councillor Bakhtar, I'm sorry, I know we do get on, but there was promises made to the CEOs back then in public, offering them something like £18 an hour, which I think was not fair to make offers out in public and not through the proper channels. I think people had their expectations raised, and rightly people should earn a fair wage for a job well done. But we want to make sure that we're negotiating fairly for all officers in the council, inside and out. So I just really want to put that on the record, that I think we have to treat people's salaries and their dignity with proper courtesy as well ourselves. But I'm sure you meant it, and I know you would have meant it in good faith, so no criticism there. But really just to say thank you again, Paul, for coming in, and I look forward to hearing what the other side have to say. Thank you.
Councillor Bakhtiar, would you like to respond for up to 2 minutes?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I would like to welcome the traffic wardens who are keeping our roads and streets safe. Please, if you have been given a ticket, issued a ticket recently, don't take it personally. They are doing their job. Paul, thank you very much for coming and clarifying the situation. Personally, I wasn't aware that our traffic wardens were earning less than £11 an hour for such demanding work. Through my involvement with the traffic wardens, I have gained a deeper understanding of the challenges they face, especially considering their low pay. The situation was further complicated by NSL's refusal to engage in meaningful negotiations until the Labour group then called for an extraordinary council meeting. That was 2023. It was only then NSL began to listen, ultimately leading to an agreement for a pay rise to just over £14 an hour. That said, I remain unconvinced that employing over 100 traffic wardens and officers through a third-party intermediary is the most beneficial approach. I firmly believe that it's the Council's responsibility to provide essential services and support those who work for us. In this case, it seems that this has not been happening. I continue to believe that the Council should cut ties with the middleman and begin the process of employing traffic wardens directly, ensuring better support and conditions for them. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, traffic wardens.
I'd like to make a point of order, Mr. Mayor, under Standing Order 28.02 of clarification.
Yes, please do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to clarify my position on the comments that I made on the motion. In October last year, I met a council representative of GMB to discuss the issue about pension fund members' contributions and where they were being invested. We discussed the investment of the pension fund in weapons and tech being sent to Israel for use on the bombing campaign on Gaza, and whether or not the pension fund members had been made aware of this, and they hadn't. At the end of the conversation, the representative I was talking to brought up the subject of the motion and specifically asked me not to support it. They said that those concerned had been happy with the hard-won improvement on pay and conditions they'd won in July 2023 after a series of strikes, as we know, and they wished to stay with the outsourced arrangement in NSL. This was reported as a victory on the GMB website, and indeed it still is there. Despite my personal views on outsourcing, I did as requested by the GMB rep, in good faith. That's all. If Mr. Block would like to meet me to update me on the earlier position or discuss any confusion or to discuss the investment arrangements of the pension fund, of which I'm also a member and not very happy about it, I will always make time to meet the unions. I've been a member since I was 15 of various unions, and I will always support them where I can. Thank you.
That point of order has been made by Councillor Dent-Code, and so we are now going to move on to the next speaker. Thank you, Mr. Block, for your time. I'd like to now invite Ms. Esther Idoko to please address the Council for up to 5 minutes. Esther.
Good evening, Mayor, Councillors. As both a resident in Camden and an active member of RBKC Council Borough, I want to speak about a vital amenity on our high street, the post office. The high street is more than a retail zone. It is one of the borough's civic arteries, serving thousands of residents, workers, and visitors daily. The post office has always been a part of that fabric, providing vital services for residents, businesses, and those without digital access. Without a permanent presence on the high street, we risk turning our high street into a convenient corridor rather than a community anchor. National data shows that access to services like post offices increase footfall, support economic health, and sustain civic life, particularly for older and vulnerable residents. The recent closure uncertainty left residents feeling somewhat deprived and local businesses disadvantaged, so I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Camden Ward councillors as well as Chelsea Riverside for a successful campaign to keep the post offices open on the high street. I urge RBKC to work proactively with the post office to secure a permanent solution. This is about more than parcels and pension. It's about preserving the everyday infrastructure that keep our community strong, connected, and inclusive. The post office as an organization tend to be open to partnerships. So my question is, will RBKC work with them to explore, for example, co-location opportunities, support viable sites in the case where relocation is necessary to ensure a sustained presence on our high street? Thank you.
Councillor Taylor-Smith, would you like to respond for up to 2 minutes?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Esther, thank you for your question. And we were absolutely delighted earlier this month when the Post Office announced that there wouldn't be a reduction in the number of branches on Kensington Chelsea, having previously put Kensington High Street on the... and it's a very big win for local people. We put together a petition of more than 3,500 people who signed the Conservative position to save the Post Office, and we had constructive meetings, and one with John and myself, with senior people at the Post Office, which has obviously led to this statement. However, we do need to be cautious, and this goes to the heart of your question about ensuring we have a Post Office on Kensington and World's End, because both Kensington High Street and the World's End post offices are, as with a small proportion of national post offices, are ones that are owned and operated by the Post Office. And the Post Office have switched now to a franchising model. So what they will be to see them if they could retain the existing premises. We have the advantage, as far as World's End is concerned, of actually having the freehold. So that's something that will be helped. But it's really very important for us to work with the Post Office to help seek and identify independent operators to take over this size, to encourage them to continue to provide the services that are so dear to us. But thank you for your question.
Councillor Ali, would you like to respond for up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes. Thank you, Esther, for coming to this council meeting, and it's great to hear your question, and obviously thanking the councillors who have worked on campaigns. But in fact, the Post Office campaign goes well back 6-7 years to different areas. It does not start with one ward, and I'm sure the campaigners and the ward councillors have done an amazing work, and I congratulate them for their work. But it has actually been going on since 2019. When I became a councillor, one of my first campaigns was to support local post offices, and not only in the High Street, Kensington, the south of the borough, north of the borough, in Chelsea, to make sure that the post office remains in high streets and not to be just deliveries where people do online everything. This is where the community get together. So on your point, apart from the MPs and everything else, I think what the council should do is to, as you said, the question, I'm sure the council, the lead member, the deputy lead member are here to listen. It's to support them, and if there is any positions to support them in terms of venue, in terms of shops, I think it will be good for the businesses. It will be good for the local community. It will be good for the connection, and it will be good to send it, parcels to everywhere around the world. So I do respect your point, and I do like to see you again to campaigning on this, not just one side of the borough, but throughout the borough. And I think it will be good to have the post office in our streets, and the MPs, the local councillors, the local community champions like yourself to get involved. Once again, thank you very much for your question, and welcome to the party. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adoko, for coming in to speak tonight. Ms. Melanie Wolfe, would you please address the Council for up to 5 minutes?
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for having me here to speak. I am Melanie Junior Wolfe of North Kensington. I would like to highlight our SEN, Special Education Needs Services. RBKC's children's services are rated outstanding. Congratulations, we all want them to be so. Today, I am asking about future services for neurodiverse children. SEN services are under pressure across the country and no longer fit for modern-day purpose. Access to education and opportunity for neurodivergent children can be patchy and difficult to access. I request that there is modernisation and refocusing on understanding of autistic children, communities and rights of children, parents and families to education and holistic support. To update outdated thinking and processes, to ensure parents are not targeted by lack of understanding of neurodivergent responses by professionals. Further, access to better independent schools advice and support for high-functioning autistic children. How will trust be rebuilt for parents of neurodivergent children? High-functioning autistic children are our future brains. They are not adequately catered for as they are often seen as being somewhat brilliant, but often have difficulties within the social spectrum. Girls particularly mask outside the home, which causes them great distress. How will these children be supported and nurtured? How will parents be treated with respect moving forwards? When will children's human and disability rights be incorporated into all children's services transparently? Dysregulation can cause a child to shut down when in fear mode. Despite all measures to counter this, it is impossible to just get the child to get up and go. Every child is different. An autistic child will not react in a set way. For parents to be threatened with being charged when this happens is an appalling stripping of the child's rights, as the parent has been forced to send their child into a situation that is unacceptable to that child's unique brain chemistry. This leads to the child's physical and mental health to break down and can lead to hospitalisation for avoidable consequences. This is despite all efforts by parents. Services are not adequately set up to deal with dysregulation in a child with differing executive functioning adequately. There is no privacy, no dignity. Parents are judged by people who have never been in their position and do not understand the parent or child. Parents are often not kept in the loop and can end up with ridiculous claims against them. Instead of listening to the issues, the continual forcing of societal rules onto a child to whom it simply does not matter and does not make sense is unconstructive. We use the description, the system, to imply it's a beast when nothing can be done to change the prescribed pathway. This is not true. The system is made up of people. People are not taking accountability and batting parents and children around the system until they feel broken. It makes families ill. You meet people, professionals, who will state that their hands are tied. It's the system. There's nothing we can do. When those involved know what is happening is wrong, speaking up becomes imperative. The system ends up with parents who initially delighted after fighting for years to have their child's needs recognised and working as positively as possible within the system, gradually being lobbied against when the impossibility of fitting their square child into a round peg dawns on being simply impossible to achieve. Parents are threatened, children remove themselves or are removed from schools through managed moves or exclusions, bearing in mind that RBKC now has the highest rate of exclusions for our children in the UK. Children who are not disruptive have been forced into schools where other children are. Indeed, those children are often there due to no fault of their own, as they themselves have not been diagnosed. There are people at these facilities that deserve our utmost gratitude and praise. It is a really tough job. It is rewarding when children's lives are turned round. But it is also disheartening to realise many children remain before eventually ending up in prison if they have not managed to turn their life chances around in the set period of time. If we cannot address these fundamental issues in RBKC, who have won recognition and awards for their child services, and we live in one of the richest parts of the world, who are we? As a parent, you are advocating for your child and you assume the professionals you deal with will be empathetic and up to the job. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. When you cannot deliver your child into the system, you are vilified. We have seen since COVID that this approach does not work. Why then are parents of neurodiverse children who are doing the utmost for their child being threatened with court action? None of this presentation...
Ms Wolfe, your time is coming to an end. Could you please conclude?
Yes, sure. None of this presentation is about criticising or knocking. It is about creating a system that is fit for purpose for our children, which many children and parents, it currently is not. This is due to a mixture of services involved, each experiencing their own lack of funding and staffing. A group of RBKC parents are submitting their response to a House of Lords white paper inquiring about the effectiveness of the 2009 Autism Bill. We hope to have RBKC's support in seeing where government can improve communication on this issue. To finish, I would like to draw attention to the fantastic selfless work that happens daily within our communities, children who are protected despite their differences. There are also professionals working tirelessly within an outdated system that are doing their utmost for families. To all of these heroes working against the grain, thank you.
I'm now going to invite Councillor Rendell to respond for up to 2 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Melanie, for coming in. I'm replying on behalf of Catherine tonight, who unfortunately can't be here. But first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming in. I know we can't particularly discuss individual cases as a whole at full council, but what you've put forward today, I think everyone has taken completely on board. Obviously, you put your daughter first, which is absolutely right, and any parent would do the same thing. And no, I'm just talking in general. And yes, that's right. And obviously, your advocacy for things like Holland Park School and obviously the community kitchen as well makes you a real stalwart in the community. So, and in coming here tonight to speak about the other wider issues in the SEND space as well is really important. Now, unfortunately, I'm not be able to respond in full up to 2 minutes, but just for the benefit of yourself and for the council as well. RBKC, obviously, as Melanie has referred to, does have outstanding children's services. However, there is obviously more we can do. And we have been successful in getting extra funding from the DFE this year for £1 million, and we obviously have increased specialist places as what we can. We've got extra places at Brunel and Marlborough Primary School too, and also we have SEND education inclusion specialists, which we're introducing as well, obviously to address some of the points that you have raised. We're also investing capital resource in future places as well for additional provisions, because obviously our children with SEND are increasing year on year. We need to really kind of ensure that they get the best services that they can actually be provided. And obviously we work closely with partners as well. Obviously we work with Full of Life up in North Kensington, another great establishment there. And we have our specialist teaching services to advise all schools, not just schools particularly catered to SEND, but all schools to ensure that they have the better place. But I know we can give you a full response as well. I could only have that minimum period of time, but thank you for coming again tonight and raising this extremely important issue. Thank you again.
Councillor Noor, would you like to respond for up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Melanie, thank you for raising such an important issue this evening. Our SEND service or special needs services are under significant pressure and sometimes or often fall short of meeting the needs of our children with special needs. There are need to modernize these services, starting with improving training for the professionals who deal with our children, to understand their need, not to misjudge them and misunderstand. Building trust is crucial, and that begins with involving parents with decision-making through consultation. As far as I'm aware, in this council, we are lucky to have some of the volunteer sector-run services, including Full of Life, which I have personally used in the past. Some of their services are commissioned by the council. The rest are done on voluntary basis. The high-functioning autistic children have an immense potential if they receive early help. And I think on this note, our collective commitment must be to listen families, reforms our service and systems, ensure every child receives the right support early enough to enable them to reach their potential and become a successful members of our community in the near future. Thank you.
Ms. Wolfe, thank you very much for coming in to speak tonight. Thank you. Item number 6 is petitions. Do members have any petitions to present? And if you do, could you just read the prayer of the petition? I see Councillor Simmons.
Thank you. We, the undersigned, call on the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, RBKC, to put an end to plans to sell Canalside House to Ballymore and to stop its demolition. We call on RBKC to retain and fully refurbish Canalside House, which provides vital community services to the people of North Kensington and beyond, and to stop the threat of eviction of the community groups resident in that building. We also call on RBKC to protect our council's most important community assets and to end the further sales or transfers of ownership.
Thank you for presenting the petition, Councillor Simmons. Item number 7, a statement by the Leader of the Council and the response by the Leader of the Opposition Group. In relation to that item, I understand the Whips have a proposal.
Mr Mayor, under Standing Order 42, I wish to move that Standing Order 30 be suspended this evening to allow Councillor Campbell and Councillor Ali up to 7 minutes each for their speeches.
Is that seconded? Very well. In that case, I invite the Leader of the Council to address the meeting for up to 7 minutes. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, it's now 1 year to go until our local elections here in London, and you won't be surprised to learn that we're gearing up on these benches already. We're out on the doorsteps, making our presence felt in the community, but we will also continue to deliver on our council plan. Last Wednesday, the leadership team agreed 31 key priorities for the next year, key priorities that really matter to our residents. Mr Mayor, before I talk about those, it's important to talk about what we've already done and how we've got here. Over 1,000 residents helped directly shape our council plan 2 years ago, and we have made real progress since. Too much progress to mention everything in one speech, Mr Mayor, so I'm afraid you'll just have to do with a few highlights. On the greener front, we have adopted our new local plan for a green, inclusive and livable borough, planted over 400 new trees, meeting our manifesto commitment a year early, and we're making our buildings greener with a schools retrofit programme, providing over £14 million for new windows, heat pumps and insulation. Towards our ambitions to be a safer borough, we have a brand new street enforcement team with a warden in every ward, acting on the issues that matter most to our residents. We're taking action against utility companies, holding them to account for dangerous working practices that put our residents and visitors at risk. And, Mr Mayor, we continue to work with our partners to support the Notting Hill Carnival. We are proud to host Carnival in this borough. It's a vibrant celebration of our community's culture, rooted in the resilience and togetherness of North Kensington, and has been a mainstay of the area since the 1960s. We're committed to Carnival, spending over £1 million a year to help facilitate the event. But, Mr Mayor, Carnival must be safe. Safety is of paramount importance to this borough, a view that I know the Carnival organisers share. The Deputy Leader, Kim Taylor-Smith, has met with the event organisers, and over recent months we've been working with them to review arrangements to make the event safer. However, it is the case that Carnival is an event of national significance, with over 1 million people attending every day from all around the world. We are the smallest borough in London, and we need the expertise and support of the police and the government alongside us. An event of such significance nationally requires a collective effort across all levels of government. Mr Mayor, we're at the best in this country when we work together across the public sector, and I hope the government and police embrace this and work with us collectively to deliver a safer carnival. On to our plans to make this borough fairer, where I'm pleased to say our plans are well advanced. Just last week, we adopted our Fairer Action Plan. I am unashamedly ambitious for the residents of this borough, and this plan sets out our aim for generational change to create a truly fairer borough. This plan is based and built on strong foundations. Our children's services has been rated outstanding for a record-breaking third time. We have supported over 500 residents on employment and skills projects, including over 150 into work and over 100 into training. And this year we've supported over 15,000 residents with a payment of £50 to help with the ongoing cost of living, on top of free school meals outside term times and council tax reductions for those who need it. So, Mr Mayor, we do the basics better than anyone. Our council tax is one of the lowest in the country, and it's paying for some of the best services in the country. But we are always striving to be better. I've said in this chamber before, we intend to become the best council, and over the next year, we will focus on a myriad of programmes to deliver on that, including our 45 commitments in the wake of the Grenfell Inquiry report. Next month, we will take a paper to scrutiny that outlines the progress we've made in our inquiry commitments. Ensuring that this council completes its fundamental council change will always be a major priority for this council. We will continue improving our streets, parks, squares, public spaces through our Amazing Spaces programme, protecting heritage along the way. We will fight for step-free access at South Kensington Station. 500,000 journeys a year are not made to or from South Ken at the moment because of its accessibility issues. We have committed £12 million to help deliver the project and are calling on other major stakeholders to do likewise. We will provide better places for vulnerable adults when they need us most, with plans for new centres at St Helens and Knightsbridge, roll out better CCTV, tackle youth violence, and partner with police, health agencies and community leaders to help prevent and reduce violent crime. We will double down on creating an exemplar housing service with a clear plan to meet decent home standards, embed the resident's voice, and make reporting repairs easier. We will work closely with businesses to boost our local economy, provide work for local people, and attract new industry and new investment from across the globe. And finally, we will embrace AI, digital service, and streamline things so everything is better for people when they contact us and need us to do something or act on something. Mr. Mayor, as you've heard tonight, we have already achieved so much, and we have a clear plan to go so much further. I am proud to lead an administration that keeps taxes low, protects the services our residents care about, and is prudent with public money. That's what a Conservative-run council delivers. Mr. Mayor, there'll be more time to come when our manifesto is released, and I'm excited about what we can do if we're re-elected next year. Thank you.
I will now invite the leader of the opposition group, Councillor Qasim Ali, to speak for up to 7 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I first of all begin, have accepted your invitation, and I will definitely join you, not at the ring, but to the event. I will have to take time to be in the ring with you for now. So I will be joining you and supporting your charity. So I hope the members of this council will be joining us all to celebrate with you and to the good work you have done. This is not about a campaign, Mr. Mayor. Today, I'm prepared to speak to the councils, our residents, as well as our councillors, to do well for our communities. As you know, Mr. Mayor, thousands of our RBKC residents celebrated the Eid, the end of Holy Month of Ramadan last month. And on this month, earlier this month in April, tens of thousands of our residents celebrated Easter and Passover. I think it's about time to recognize and to congratulate those who have been celebrating in our borough, RBKC, and for those who make RBKC what it is today, for all backgrounds and for all religions. That is Passover and the Easter obviously started on the 11th of April and ended the nightfall on Sunday the 20th of April, which happens to be the Easter Sunday. And as you're well aware of, Mr. Mayor, our borough is diverse. Well, we have got different ethnicities, we've got different religions. And on Easter Monday, over 6 million people in the UK, and some of them live in RBKC, have lost their leader, who was the Pope Francis. And may I say this to everyone who follow the Pope Francis, my deepest condolences to you for losing the leader. And Pope Francis has been known for someone who is a peace-loving and who supported the poor and those who are in need. And again, my condolences to those who have been following him. And I hope his next Pope will follow his legacy to support everyone and bring religions and people together. Mr. Mayor, as you're well aware of, this month, this year is the 80th Victory Day in Europe, and RBKC is known for celebrating and making sure communities are bringing together. And yes, I had a discussion earlier, some time ago, with the lead member for communities to make sure that the communities are supported, and also CLF money goes to the right places to support our local communities. I am proud to be one of the councillors, one of the trustees, as well as the lead member for deputy leader of the council and the lead member for economic and employment, Councillor Tim Telly-Smith and Councillor Marwa Al-Nagi, who took part, members of the trustees, but I was there to support the Al-Manar Trust. And the reason we were supporting is to make sure that the Victory in Europe Day celebration is already started in Al-Manar, and to support the local community and bring together all diverse communities to support. And that has been covered by the BBC and ITV. I know hundreds of events are run in the borough, in Delgado Ward, and across the north and the south of the borough, but Al-Manar started the celebration, and I'm sure all of us will be supporting the local communities to do this. I want to thank Al-Manar staff, volunteers, and celebrities who supported us, including actor Rose Cam, Candice Brown, who has won the Great British Cake Off, who came to Al-Manar and supported the local communities, as well as Bib Taylor, who is a broadcaster. Again, also to extend my thanks to the Together Coalition organization and their staff. Mr. Mayor, you know, it's not about, when we're celebrating, it's not limited to the streets and everyone else. It's all, people are also coming together in their homes. And this is when it comes to the campaign. The leader of the borough spoke about the health and safety of the campaign. In fact, we, the Labour group of councillors, have been campaigning with our local MB to make sure that the RBKC residents have homes that are fit and safe for human habitation and people can celebrate. And we know that because of the Member of Parliament, Joe Powell, Kensington and Bayswater Member of Parliament, has been working with the local councillors to make sure that the local organizations and providers are being held accountable, not just to the council, but also housing providers. And Joe and I have organized an event on the 4th of April 2025 to make sure that the local people are heard, residents are heard, and their issues relating to housing, and as well as Councillor Bosch Thexter organized a meeting with the Member of Parliament in her ward, St Helens ward. Housing repairs and dam and mold has always been coming under severe overcrowding, top issues for our borough. How can we say this borough, we want it to be the best borough to work and live and study, where our residents are suffering through, are living in conditions where are not fit for human habitation? And this is what the leadership should be working towards, rather than words. Action is weaker than word is done. And I'm sure the leader of the council and the deputy leader and everyone else who's been involved in the housing will get involved. The last meeting that the Joe Powell, the Member of Parliament, has organized together with the local community happened in the 10th of April, where the lead member for housing attended. But what we want to do is this council to play a vital role to make sure the local organizations, housing providers, are held accountable for their actions, and make sure that the council comes up with a strategy, Mr. Mayor. The representatives who attended that meeting, the major housing issues, to deal with the local issues and support our residents who are in need, and some of them have actually lost trust that they no longer contacting the residents, they're contacting their elected officials because they feel they they have been ignored for so many years, and I think that should not be the case. The representative of a major housing association who attended at the meeting that the Joe Powell, the Labour MP, has organised, included Peabody Housing, Notting Hill Genesis, Octavia Housing, and L&Q, as well as Clarion. RBKC should be playing a really leading role. I'm sure the lead member attended, as well as the chair of Housing and Community, the chair of Housing and Community Select Committee, as well as the deputy housing. Deputy Cabinet for Housing of the Westminster City Council, with the neighbouring council. Mr. Mayor, the final point is this. If this council is not willing to support the local residents, how can we say once again this is the best borough to live, work and study? Housing is the number one. We know the legacy of bad housing, bad management. Let us to Grenfell. Let's support our communities and make sure our communities live in a decent, habitable life so that they can raise their own families. Housing will be number one. It has been said before in the 90s, education, education, education. But this century is housing, housing, and housing, and that will be the point. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for agreeing to join me at the boxing on the 10th of May. Just wanted to say that. Thank you. Item number 8 is the order of business. In accordance with standing orders, I rule that the order of business shall be as published. Item number 9. I now invite Councillor Taylor-Smith to propose the reception of the Municipal Timetable 2025 to 2026 report and Councillor Addenbrooke to second. Members will note that there is a change to the date of one of the scheduled meetings of the Audit and Transparency Committee from the 6th of October to the 29th of September 2025. The updated timetable is on page 5 of the additional papers pack. With that, Councillor Taylor-Smith to propose.
I'm pleased to propose, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Addenbrooke.
I wish to second, Mr. Mayor.
I will now invite Councillor Taylor-Smith if he wishes to speak to the report.
No, Mr. Mayor, I don't wish to speak to the report.
Does any other member wish to speak to the report? I take that as a no. Therefore, does Council agree to adopt the amended municipal timetable for May 2025 to December 2026? The recommendation is agreed. Item number 10 is reports from the leadership team, and there are no reports from the leadership team on this occasion. Item number 11, reports from council side committees. There is one item from the Audit and Transparency Committee, the outcome of the investigation into complaints against Councillor Jeddart. Would Councillor Hargreaves propose the report's reception, and would Councillor Yankson second?
I propose. Second, Mr. Mayor.
Would Councillor Hargreaves like to speak to the report?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I have to say, in presenting this report tonight, I do so with a heavy heart. It's an honour and a privilege to be an elected councillor and to serve our communities. And as members, we have an individual and collective responsibility to demonstrate and promote the highest standards of conduct. Individually, we have a responsibility to comply to the Council's Code of Conduct and to cooperate with the investigation of any complaint. The Council has delegated that responsibility for hearing complaints and breaches of the Code, which proceed to formal investigations, to the Audit and Transparency Committee. Hence, you have this report from the committee tonight. In this hearing on the 10th of February 2025, we heard 3 complaints against Councillor Jeddart. Having heard and upheld the 3 complaints, the details of which I won't go into detail with because they're set out in the report, the committee has recommended that the full council censure Councillor Jeddart. Such a censure will make it absolutely clear that the behaviour showed by Councillor Jeddart towards the residents and staff involved are not acceptable. The report and the 3 appendages outline in some detail the process that we went through during the hearing. And I wish to thank the members of the committee for the thorough and professional way in which they conducted the hearing. And this included councillors from both sides of the chamber, and an independent member of the Audit and Transparency Committee. I would also like to thank Laverne Parker, the Council's Chief Solicitor and Monitoring Officer, and her team for the huge amount of time they spent on this investigation and supporting Councillor Juddett during the process, and their very professional way that they conducted their investigations. Mr. Mayor, under the current standards regime, there are very limited sanctions that we can impose for Code of Conduct breaches. Censure by the full Council is the most public and serious of those sanctions. By agreeing a formal censure, the Council can express its strong disapproval of a councillor's conduct. Mr. Mayor, I present the report to the Council this evening. Thank you.
In relation to members that have indicated to me that they wish to speak, I have the following members listed: Councillor Simmons and Councillor Wheel. Do any other members wish to speak? Very well. In that case, Councillor Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you to the officers and to the Chair of the Audit and Transparency Committee for this very thorough report. It is regrettable, but I believe sadly necessary, that this has had to come to full Council for the reasons detailed in the report. As councillors, we are all bound by the Councillor Code of Conduct, and although we are all human, we must all be mindful of the impact of our behaviour and the effects of our decisions upon others. Just as it should be a given that we treat our residents with dignity and respect, so too does the same apply for the impartial officers of this council who work so hard for our residents, often under difficult conditions. As you know, I abhor anything connected with this council which is unjust, immoral or unfair. On this occasion, as a member of this Audit and Transparency Committee panel, I am satisfied and can attest that this report represents a significant amount of impartial officer time and work, and that it is the culmination of a process which has been diligent, scrupulous and fair. I therefore hope that members will support this report. I hope too that this report gives our impartial officers some confidence and assurance that where problems arise, they will be supported by fair process, upholding the Councillor Code of Conduct, while also respecting councillors' duties to make representations for our constituents. This difficult matter should give us all pause for thought, so I will close with the following words, which I'm sure we can all relate to. There is so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us, that it ill behoves any of us to talk about the rest of us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Wheel, do you wish to speak?
Thank you. One of the only lectures I remember from my lamentably useless university career was one given by Ralph Darendorf. He was a brave man who was sent to concentration camps twice for his anti-Nazi activities, and he talked to us about the importance of pluralism. Feckless student that I was, it wasn't ever something that I'd given any thought to. I just thought that democracy in itself, you vote people in and it works, and that's why we had stability in our country. Luckily, I discovered that there's a long line of eminent philosophers who had thought about it, from Burke to Berlin. And at the heart of this is that there is a political philosophy, that there is a set of shared values. And the most important shared value, and I've come to think of this really as the special source of democracy, and that most important shared value is mutual respect, understanding and tolerance in the way that we deal with each other. This doesn't mean that we have to agree, far from it. It just means that we have to disagree with respect and courtesy. And that's why this investigation was so important. If we lose that respect and courtesy, we put everything at risk. So I applaud the residents and officers who were bold enough to articulate and pursue their complaints. I offer my profound thanks to every member of that committee who sat and fairly reviewed them, and the officers who so ably supported them. You have been on the front line of protecting those values, which make it possible for us to operate as a council. Thank you.
If no other members wish to speak to the debate, I would ask Councillor Hardgreaves whether he wishes to sum up.
No, thank you.
Therefore, does the Council agree with the recommendation as set out at paragraph 8 on page 32 of the agenda pack? I'm going to ask first for all those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against? And any abstentions? In that case, I declare the recommendation approved. Item number 11, reports from overview and scrutiny select committees. On this occasion, there are none. Item 13, questions asked of lead members, understanding order 22, and I have notice of 2 questions to lead members. Would Councillor Jeddart please put her question to Councillor McVeigh? Councillor Jeddart.
Thank you. Why does the lead member for housing claim that the council wants to be the best, greener, safer, fairer borough in the light of following issues? Back in 2023 December, £80,000 was awarded for refurbishment of Balfour Valley Trevorton Estate playground. Up to this day, we see not much happening, and second-hand equipment has been brought. The council promised when planning application for Barbara School was approved that the same estate will have Eternal Street, Trevorton Street, reference 2025. No promise has been fulfilled by the housing. In 2023, the residents of the same estate went through a public consultation asking for green roof, solar panels, implementation of SADs, including the paving and rain gardens, planting native plants. In 2025, April, we see no engagement whatsoever to make this happen. 3 wise men at 3 cutters. Timber is removed from estates and profit is made, but never added to the estate improvement budget or turned into back hotel and helping ecosystem or used for benches or in every other way benefiting the estate. There is £7,000 bill to be picked up by Resident Association Balfour Valley, which was mostly run by the Speed Theatre, implanted there without any consultation with residents for 3 years during the COVID and after. The residents secured the same estate in 2023, money to place 2 gates to secure the Trevorton Street from antisocial behaviour and secure the children as well. The planning application was to be decided in August 2024. Up to today's day, nothing has been implemented and is against the regulation. Back in July 2024, the majority of Council House residents wished to revoke Speed Theatre lease. Council ignored them, falsely claiming that there is resident association voicing over residents' concerns, which is not true. Up to this day, Speed Theatre makes profits on the whole and claims that they are spending over £700,000 on North Kensington community.
Councillor Jeddart, you are out of time. Could you please conclude?
To conclude, there is a list of issues which I already included on this paper in front of you, and I would like to point out that residents want really to hear the answers. This is the 3rd time I bring to the full council attention the same issue, and lead member for housing has no time to go from point to point, having this in front of her for 10 days before full council.
Councillor Jeddart.
It's not acceptable.
You are out of time,
either you do your job, either quit, resign.
I'll now invite Councillor McVeigh to respond for up to 2 minutes. Councillor McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before I respond to Councillor Jeddart's several questions, I think 16 all in all, I'm not sure really that's allowed, but anyway, I would just like to echo what Councillor Claire Simmons said about looking for the best in all of us, and again what Councillor Wheels said about shared values and mutual respect. I think the whole chamber was incredibly quiet during this last, what's it called, motion. I mean, you know, to censor someone is nothing that we want to be doing. We all want to uphold the values that we stood to be elected on. So in regard to this specific questions, There are so many. We're going to reply to you, if that's okay, in writing. But in terms of your general view on the estate, I mean, I was there just a few weeks ago, and our resident engagement, we have a very, very active Tenants Consultative Committee that meets monthly, and that is from RAs, heads, representatives from all over the borough. We have an annual residents' summit, which is attended by 200 residents, where we are in the Great Hall in person. We have really meaningful conversations and actions on those conversations. And since Grenfell, we've had visiting officers, which I quite often go out with, and I knock on people's doors, and I really do find out what's going on. So I am out and about, and I know what is happening. Finally, regarding to the consultation, if you actually look on our website, there is a very, very good webpage about consultations that says, you said, we did, and I thoroughly recommend it. And my colleague, Councillor Addenbrook, has been leading on that very, very effectively. And finally, in the last 10 seconds, just to say regarding the conditions of our homes in general on our estates, we have a £700 million major works investment which we are doing on our estates over 10 years to get all of our homes up to the standards that we expect. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Jedit, do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you. I think that residents deserve better than their Tories-led council and a Labour betraying them. This question didn't come from me. There are residents who are very frustrated after Grenfell. Disrepair not done, promises are made, funds are required on their behalf. Residents see that. If you walk and talk to residents on Balfour Valley, on Notting Barn, on Kensal House, you have not graced the question from residents. Why Speed Theatre claims to help the residents with £700,000 of charity commissioner.
Could you please get to the crux of the question?
Explain why you are not engaging with the questions directly, one by one, having them in front of you for many, many weeks now. This is not a fair setting. And if you do not like the delivery, meet the residents, and I can promise you it will be more frustrating. Thank you.
Councillor McVeigh, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to continue this back and forth too much, but I only have 2 minutes to respond, and I don't think I could do justice to the 16 questions. So, as I said, I will respond in writing to those fully.
I don't have anything in writing.
Councillor Jedit, please. Would Councillor Lowry please put his question to Councillor Kamali? Councillor Lowry.
Sure. What is the view of the lead member for planning and the position of the council leadership of the inappropriate and highly misleading behaviour of the applicants of the Kendal Canalside development, who've hired individuals to ask residents to put their signature to blank documents without explanation, gain unlawful access to estates, much to the dismay of the residents who have complained? This includes an incident where a person gained unlawful access and had to be escorted out of Treddick Tower, a council-owned estate in my ward. Is the council leadership aware that under the pretence of being part of an organisation named Your Shout, they are trespassing on council-owned estates and outrageously doorstepping council tenants, asking them to sign blank submissions to the RBKC Planning Department, which they have stated that they themselves subsequently complete with supportive comments in their words, not the residents? This is blatant malpractice. Given the unethical nature of these actions and the obvious manipulation involved, does the lead member agree that all submissions originating in this manner by lobbying groups must be regarded as unsafe and should be formally discounted and excluded from the planning process as a matter of proper procedure? The issue at stake is not whether the applicant is permitted to engage consultants, but the manner in which those consultants are operating. Misrepresenting themselves as campaigners while asking residents to sign near-blank forms that are later completed and submitted by the consultants separately is not just improper, it actively and possibly fatally undermines the integrity of RBKC's planning process. Does the lead member therefore agree that as these tarnished comments risk being weighed alongside genuine public comment in support or against, They distort both public consultation and democratic planning.
Councillor Kamali to respond.
Thank you, Councillor Lowry. We take an incredibly dim view of this practice. I'm aware of it actually happening also very recently in Wandsworth Borough Council about one of the developments over there. It's not right that people are sort of encouraged to sign blank documents and have that filled in by a consultancy. It's also not right that really people are having to go to that effort to try and build support for a scheme. I know the planning department are already looking at the sort of veracity of these comments and how they might be able to trawl through them to establish which are fair and accurate and which may well have been gathered in this way. I trust our officers to look into it. But I think the wider piece is writing in support of housing. I think it's somewhat, well, not laughable, but it's completely unnecessary. We have millions of people that need homes. We have people that are struggling to save their deposits to put down on a new house. We have people in TA that need housing. When colleagues that sit at the planning committees, whenever these applications may come, or whichever application may come forth, they must always remember that the letters of support not sent in are just as valid as those which have been sent in. And the numbers completely outstrip those that may be in opposition. We have to make sure development is in accordance with our development plan, absolutely. But we also have to recognise that we're here to build homes and deliver houses for the people that don't have a voice in Kensington and Chelsea. Many of these houses will be bought by people that may never have even stepped foot in KNC, but really do want to. And we have to consider their views as well when coming to a decision at committee. But as to the pertinent point of the way these comments were gathered, we will of course look into it properly and make sure that the committee report that comes forth later this year or early next year will be sound and beyond reproach. Thank you.
Councillor Lowry, do you have a follow-up question?
I welcome the lead members, the bulk of the lead member's response. Can the lead member commit that all comments gathered in this method will be excluded from being recorded in the planning report, the document that's submitted to planning committee members and released to the public for consideration? I've seen some of these submissions in the past. I know how they look like. I'm sure you have as well. And they are not comments either way. So can you give residents a guarantee that all these gathered, no matter what the time frame was, will be excluded from the planning report, not counted as supportive comments, but simply excluded, and only genuine comments from our residents will be included in that report? The fact of the matter is that I've had many people who are residents in Goulburn write to me. That means there are certainly plenty more who haven't written to me, who are concerned about this and who have also been doorstepped. And the fact that a member of the public who was able to gain access to an estate needs to be addressed. And I really hope that this council can address unlawful access to estates to avoid a situation where people have to be escorted out. It's extremely distressing, and therefore I ask the member to commit that these comments will not be included in the report.
Councillor Kamali.
Thank you, Councillor Lowry. I'm sure you can understand I can't make a unilateral decision about removing comments from a live planning application. We do have to follow the process. If they are found to not be legally acceptable, I'm sure our planning team will remove them accordingly, but I can't make that commitment myself now, not being sort of an expert in the legal parameters that we'd be operating under. As to the safety of the housing, obviously nobody wants that situation to arise. I think we really have to take this up with the consultancy that's being used, and I'm happy to write to them and to speak to them in partnership perhaps with Councillor McVeigh for housing, to make sure that they are not sending people into our borough to effectively break into our housing estates. That's completely unacceptable. We have to be supportive of development and planning and not have these somewhat underhanded tactics deployed to try and inflate numbers for a scheme. We want development to stand on its own 2 feet and be judged appropriately. Thank you.
Item 14 is matters of local concern raised under Standing Order 11. I've had the following members listed to speak for up to 2 minutes each on either a ward or other live issue that's primarily local in nature. Councillor Jeddart, then Councillor Rendell, then Councillor Adurian and Councillor Addenbrook. So we'll start with Councillor Jeddart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am very sorry to bring to the full council attention, but things need to be said and clarified for my personal safety when carrying out duties as a councillor. Particularly today when I was censored under false claims, never given opportunity to defend myself by having account blocked by the council, and when appealing decision having my account blocked again. I have been systematically attacked before and after the election, and my family name has been literally dragged through the mud for all the reason that I try to serve my residents. To clarify, I have never called any black councillor a bad word, nor made a statement that my Muslim residents, as falsely was claimed, national threat. I have been accused in this very chamber of being a racist, anti-Semitic, Islamophobe, and that I have made, this made me into a hit target, and that I made over comments which I never made. That's been put sort of into my London. I have been called on this council promises stupid in order to shut up. I came into politics to serve the residents as I was serving them before, trying to save HMO from disappearing for the shortlets. I exercise my human rights to speak freely, being outspoken on behalf of my residents. I never speak on behalf of myself. Never. I dive into my duty as a councillor straight after election 2022, supporting a single mother, a Muslim mother, an honor killing survivor and her children, who were sleeping over in this chamber, being unsupported by the Labour group and the council alike. I keep supporting all residents in spirit of Workers' Party of Britain, witnessing how vital funds have been blocked by Labour in Dalgon Award for such events like Christmas partying, which are never questioned by the lead member of our communities by Conservative. At the same time, being fully aware that the Tory majority runs this council, being responsible for Grenfell Tower disaster, and the current Labour betrayed voters by moving away from what Labour stands
is up.
for.
Could you please conclude? Next, I'll invite Councillor Rendell to speak for up to 2 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to bring some good news to the council. I know it's very rare this evening, Mr. Mayor. 2 weeks ago, our local NHS, the ICB, made a decision to reopen our mental health hospital in South Westminster. And that's really, really positive development. And it's been a lot of hard work, Mr. Mayor, that will benefit all the residents in this borough. The extra beds in Westminster means there are now 10 extra beds in St Charles Hospital for our own residents with acute mental health needs. And I think this is extremely important to have that local service available. Now, I think Councillor Knight wishes to bring a fuller report on this at the June meeting, where we can have a further debate on it. But I'd just like to congratulate Councillor Knight and Councillor Ahmed, if she was here tonight. It's a really good example of cross-party working on what we can do to achieve the best. And I'd also like to thank David Bellow, who we've got here in the audience, not the audience, on the front row, Mr. Mayor, who has worked so hard and diligently as well to really achieve this aim. So it's been 5 years, Mr. Mayor, to get to this point. 5 years we've been lobbying, we've been campaigning, we've been writing numerous letters, we've had meetings with the MPs, we've had meetings with the Department of Health, we've had meetings with our local hospital trusts, we've run a full campaign. And finally, we have success. That will mean residents that are now going to Milton Keynes will now be able to be here closer to their friends and their family and their community as well to get the treatment they need. So I'd just like to pass this news on to the Chamber and hope we can take this further forward even better so. Thank you so much.
Call upon Councillor Adurian to speak. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As colleagues may have heard, the governors of St Cuthbert Whitset Matthias Primary School in Earls Court have begun a consultation on closure. As a former governor and chair myself, I know how difficult this decision will have been, and indeed how hard, how creatively staff at the school have worked in recent years to maintain a high-quality education, something that's been recognised by Ofsted and immensely valued by all parents at the school. And I want to particularly pay tribute to former head teacher Jill Puttrill, who has provided huge and outstanding leadership and dedication over many years, and I really wanted to mention her. Now, this proposed closure stems, unfortunately, to a long-term decline in pupil numbers. The causes are complex: falling birth rates, high housing costs, internal migration out of London, and it is generally becoming increasingly difficult to sustain small one-form entry primary schools in central London, and we've had this issue in RBKC in Westminster as well. Now, while Earls Court may well see an influx of more residents, hopefully families, particularly as the early stages of the Earls Court development near completion, that moment is potentially still many years away, and there are still serious questions about affordability. But even in the face of those realities, I would still urge the lead member for Family Services to use what influence the Council has to ensure this consultation doesn't end up just being a conveyor belt to closure. Even now, let's attempt to work with the Church of England, the London Diocese Board of Education, the Department for Education, and indeed others, to explore alternatives. A school that has served Earls Court and the surrounding area for over 150 years deserves that at the very least. We owe it, Mr. Mayor, to the generations of children who were educated at the school, the staff who have given their all, and indeed the families past and present who hope to raise their children in the area, to do our best for that. Thank you.
Councillor Addenbrooke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You will all recall the shocking gun violence which occurred last year in Goulburn Ward. The police and the Council's community safety team responded quickly, going out into the communities affected to provide reassurance with pop-up community engagement stalls, direct engagement with schools, the faith community and residents. We also attended a resident meeting at St Thomas's Primary School, which provided further opportunities to connect with residents and understand their lived experiences and concerns. Residents told us they wanted more CCTV and opportunities to meet with the police and council together. So I'm pleased to announce that we have now installed 6 additional cameras in Goulburn Ward, and a further 2 will be installed over the next few weeks. We have also been holding joint drop-in sessions with the police at 2 Thorpe Close every Wednesday, and these have been really successful, and we've had really good feedback from the residents. So we will never accept violence in our communities as normal or acceptable, and we are committed to listening and responding to residents, and both supporting and challenging the police to tackle crime. Thank you.
Item 15 is motions, and members will see that we have 3 motions printed in the agenda. As there is altered text and an amendment, I shall be referring to the copies in the supplementary papers pack. Motion 1 is about antisocial behaviour by some delivery drivers. With members' consent, we will use the altered text on page 17 of the additional papers. Do members agree? That's agreed. In which case, would Councillor Verboden please move formally, and Councillor Wade second?
I move the motion.
I wish to second.
I'll now invite Councillor Verboden to speak for up to 5 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually raised this motion over a year ago in response to the Mayor of London launching the Motorcycle Road Safety Charter, which was signed by a number of the gig economy companies, such as Deliveroo and Uber Eats. Within this year, we have also seen a lot of developments around e-bikes. A few months ago, here in RBKC, we had an e-bike conference which was held where we heard from both residents and e-bike providers. Around the same time, the Mayor of London announced that he is working with e-bike providers to tackle problematic parking of dockless e-bikes, and new legislation is underway to give local authorities more power when dealing with the e-bike providers. We feel strongly that all these initiatives around e-bikes need to be extended to also tackle the issues around fast food deliverers. The Mayor's motorcycle road safety charter that I mentioned only focuses on motorcycles, whilst many of the deliverers are actually on bicycles. And like the issues we have seen around e-bikes, they're also giving cyclists in general a bad name. Residents have complained about deliverers on bikes driving on the pavements along Earls Court Road and Old Brompton Road and crossing junctions at a red light, and I'm sure that many councillors here in the room will have heard similar stories in their wards. Secondly, we also need to discuss the behaviour of the drivers when they're not on their bikes. They're often congregating around busy restaurants, blocking the pavement for pedestrians, and we actually have one particular resident in our ward who is a wheelchair user who on a number of occasions has been not pushed but directed off the pavement onto the road, which is completely unacceptable. And sometimes we see even worse. They get into an argument and even fist fights. Because of the lack of toilets, toilet facilities, they urinate in the street, and sometimes even worse we've seen. Because of this, we have brought forward this motion and hope we can save our street wardens time so that they can focus on the many other problems that they have to deal with. And therefore I ask this council to support this motion. Thank you.
And Councillor Wade, do you wish to speak?
As raised earlier in a question this evening, this problem is contributory to the declining standard of our residential roads and pavements and high street. We need to understand the impact on residents and other business users and develop a policy, including enforcement, to address the problem, which can also be incorporated in planning and licensing application conditions. These fast food bikes are taking over our high streets, our pavements, and our steps, residential steps. This problem has increased with the granting of late-night cafe licenses after midnight, when there are no safer neighbourhood team or set officers to enforce. Bikers congregate in anticipation of collection, and so fast food and late-night cafe licenses are essentially part of the solution. They need to deliver a delivery bike management plan, and this should not be exclusively for their frontages, but also the areas where the bikes are parked. And given the commercial advantage to the businesses, this is something that they should support. Deliveroo, Uber Eats and other operators, due to the judgment in the court last year, have little or no control over their self-employed drivers and have abdicated their responsibility for enforcement to the local authorities. These are drivers without training, sometimes insurance, and in some cases have no road sense, and until they get a booking, there's no direct contact with the fast food outlet. The police have reported the use by bikers of cannabis, resulting in situations of driving under the influence of drugs, and an increase in noise complaints at between 4 and 5 in the morning. And this is changing residential streets into parking lots, with residents unable to keep their windows open. These companies are using our streets and pavements as an essential part of their business plans, and therefore are commercial, but they do not contribute financially to the borough for the privilege. Tim has mentioned the issues of antisocial behaviour. We've had to deal with dustbins having to be removed because of toxic weights. I won't expand on that. So I think earlier this year, I asked the Borough Commander for a coordinated plan of action, including immigration, DVLA, environmental health, street enforcement team, and the safer neighbourhood team. They've conducted several exercises, and I understand that they will conduct more. Reading through the Conservative amendment, we're largely on the same page. It's a question of what actions needed to be taken by the Council, lobbying central government to get general bikes under control, and this is a cross-cutting departmental thing. Many departments can contribute something which could come together to be able to improve our streets, improve our quality of life for our residents, and support better businesses. I would ask the members support this motion.
I will now call upon Councillor Adurian to move the amendment and Councillor Hammond to second on page 19 of the additional papers. Councillor.
Beg to move, Mr. Mayor.
I beg to second, sir.
In that case, I now invite Councillor Adurian to speak for up to 5 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope our small amendment will prove uncontroversial. Let's start first of all by acknowledging the good. Delivery platforms have helped our restaurants survive, certainly through the COVID pandemic. They've created flexible work for many and brought real convenience to residents. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this chamber who has welcomed a swift meal after a long evening meeting. Who knows what will happen today? But we can't ignore, quite rightly, the other side. Dangerous riding, parking chaos, poor behaviour, night after night, especially in hot spots like several streets off Allscourt Road. Residents are quite rightly fed up, and enforcement has struggled to keep pace, whether from the council, from the police, or indeed the platforms themselves. That has to change. These companies aren't just bystanders. They assign the jobs, they've got the data, they control the system. They should be held to account. They should be using that data to better manage rider numbers, reduce waiting times, indeed work together on a multi-platform basis, and give residents an easy, straightforward way to report persistent problems. And the restaurants and the takeaways, they need to step up too. They're benefiting from these platforms, and they should have a duty to ensure their operations don't spill out onto chaos on our streets. And I'd like to see how the licensing system could help really drive that responsibility home. Now, at the same time, we need the police as well to work with us a lot more to tackle antisocial behaviour, especially at some of these late hours, to enforce the Allscourt PSPO, which covers a lot of the problem behaviours that we see. Let's look at how we can find the appropriate use of more CCTV at some of these corner locations, more warden patrols, more targeted multi-agency operations, measures like a motorbike registration scheme or more motorbike parking charges, any sort of measure that can help at least promote better behaviour. At the end of the day, this has to be about balance, promoting, supporting business, keeping the convenience, but at the same time protecting quality of life for our residents. So I hope our small amendment will be supported. Thank you.
Councillor Hammond, do you wish to speak?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to thank the members for Earls Court for bringing forward the motion, and particularly my friend Councillor Adurian, who wrote the original version of the amendment about 2 years ago. And the original motion is it's a bit unbalanced. It's not wholly wrong, though. Particularly, we've had a major problem in Old Brompton Road near the Redcliffe Ward boundary with a company called Zap. They were operating a warehousing business out of a shop. When this motion was drafted 2 years ago, the problem was just starting. It got very much worse. We got, I'm glad to say, got planning enforcement involved in it. Planning enforcement did an excellent job because the business was operating with the wrong sort of planning permission. We then had an appeal to the planning inspectorate. We had a fantastic cross-ward campaign with my Redcliffe colleagues. We saw off the applicant, or the appellant, I think they were at that stage. We saw them off, they withdrew. The problem has actually gone away. But that was a significant problem, top end of the scale of what this motion talks to. At the lower end of the spectrum, I live in a ground floor flat. The buzzing of motorbikes is irritating, and I know that's an experience shared by many residents of the borough. But then we have the flip side, and like my friend Councillor Adurian, occasionally I reach for the phone and my Uber Eats app. And when I do, it's a local business that gets my custom. And one of my particular favourites I will share with the Chamber is a place called Addie's Thai on Earls Court Road. And this is an example of Conservative councillors supporting local businesses. And the implication of the motion is that the Liberal councillors do not support the local businesses in their ward. I'm sure that's a completely unfair thing to say, but I'll say it anyway for the laugh. So these apps are not going to be uninvented. So I think the challenge now is how are we going to live with them? And at a micro level, I think we've had some successes. It was about 6 years ago, and now in Courtfield Ward, we worked with Deliveroo when they were parking in a Mews, Stanhope Mews West, which is very noisy. We engaged with Deliveroo. We got the bikes moved into a much noisier area where they're less noticeable. We had a couple of false starts with that, but it starts 6 years on now. When I first wrote this, it was 4 years on, but 6 years on, that's largely held. So you can have some successes. And it was striking. We had the consultation into the Gloucester Road streetscape improvements a couple of years ago, and very much looking forward to getting the financial approval for that in the very near future. But when we had the consultation, it was striking that quite a lot of residents mentioned the delivery riders and how do we accommodate them in the scheme. And I think people are waking up to the fact these are part of the ecosystem and how do we accommodate them. And in fact, the new design does accommodate places for the riders. So let's not try and to reinvent a past that never really existed, which is what the original version of the motion suggests. I think we need to move forward to recognise the social and technological changes that we've got with these apps. We need to realise the benefits, but also mitigate the downsides. And that's what the motion seeks to do in its amended form. And I commend the amendment to the Chamber, and I'd urge you to vote for the amended motion when we've amended it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Hear, hear.
I will now, I see Councillor Will wishes to speak. Councillor Will.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't originally planning to speak about this motion because I think it's both the motion and in particularly the amended form is very sensible. And then sitting here listening to colleagues, this has a really depressing familiarity to this story, and I wanted to introduce a caveat. Because we do a good job for our residents and because we care about our residents, we are being asked to tackle a problem that is obviously not of our making, and I think we're all guilty here of course, ordering this kind of food, but actually is not really our responsibility. Bad driving, cyclists, these are the unlicensed vehicles. These are all the responsibility of central government, but particularly the Mayor of London. And we know we have a government who's very keen on devolution and more mayors, and it is really depressing. And I saw this when I was lead member for community safety, how residents would ask us to do things around antisocial behaviour, which this is, which actually aren't our responsibility, because we have a mayor who, as a cab driver described to me, though it's not Mayor Khan, but Mayor Carnage, who will not step into the space and do the job. He's in a unique position to convene all of these people, and this isn't just a problem in our borough, it's a London-wide problem, it's probably a national problem. So absolutely I support this amended motion, and we should do our bit. But I do worry when we keep stepping into and taking responsibility for problems that others actually also have the powers to solve. Thank you.
And in addition to Councillor Will, we also have the following members listed to speak: Councillor Rossi, Councillor Benton and Councillor Bennett. Do any other members not on that list wish to speak? Very well. In that case, I'll call upon Councillor Rossi. Councillor.
Thank you. So I also want to talk about the company's app that was in the Old Brompton Road. And as Councillor Hammond said, it affected both Redcliffe and Courtfield Ward. Basically, it's a grocery delivery company, and they sent its drivers to park in the small residential street of Beena Gardens. There was as many as 40 riders at any one time in this previously quiet street. Even at less busy times, there would always be about 10 of them. They congregated on the street, they sat on the steps of houses, they smoked, they ate, they urinated, they fought with each other, and they were aggressive to the residents. The street was full of food waste, and it looked as if the rule of law had been abandoned. I should add that I blame the exploitative company Zap for this behaviour, for not providing restrooms and waiting areas for their drivers. And also the conditions in which they were working were absolutely deplorable. When I spoke to a security guard, I was told that the street was public space and that the bikers could do as they wished. I pointed out that public space was for everybody and did not mean that a business could colonise the street for its own purposes and to save overheads. The Redcliffe and Courtfield councillors, with the help of Jem Kamali and the Highways Department, managed to get all the parking bays along the street suspended so that they were resident only. And then a planning enforcement notice was served to prevent a distribution service from the premises, which has now come into effect. So that solved the problem of Bina Gardens. So I do agree that we need to speak to these delivery companies, but I also think, even bearing in mind what Councillor Will has said, I think we need to consider how we allow these companies to use our street, and I think we need to formulate some policy to prevent the public space of our streets being commercialised by companies to the detriment of our residents. Thank you.
Councillor Benton, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, as originally worded, the motion I strongly support. I'd like to speak about the amendment. What I liked about the original is it very much focuses on bringing the companies to the table. But looking through these amendments, okay, so number one, no opportunity can go by where we can't get little jabs in at the opposition parties. Got nothing to do with us, but let's be serious. You're asking us in good faith to condemn members of our own party. You know what that is. They know what that is. I know what that is. Let's be serious. Secondly, and in sort of direct inverse proportion to that, there seems to be no villain too brazenly exploitative for this council to roll out the red carpet for. When we're talking about these companies, let's see, we recognise their contribution to the local economy, etc., etc., etc. We've all heard that. They've done this by completely, deliberately, utterly undercutting all of the hard-won workers' rights that have been fought for by generations of British workers. We all know this, right? This is an entirely immiserated workforce. And as Councillor Rossi has very correctly gestured, they are not treating their people right, but also Councillor Adurian referred to them as these companies as providing jobs. They don't. They're not jobs. That's the point. Right? These are appalling conditions to expect anyone to work for. So, frankly, I think any half-civilized country should be coming down a lot harder and, again, not allowing them to use our public spaces. Okay, so that's really all I need to say about it. I support it as written. I don't like this amendment for the reasons above. And thank you, councillors, for voting in Wade.
Councillor Bennett, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I have some confessions to make. I confess I have ordered in pizza on a wet Sunday evening when the pizzeria is only a 10-minute walk away. I confess at the end of a long week I've ordered a lambuna from my local Indian restaurant despite having a pantry full of healthy ingredients. And I confess that on occasion I have ordered in cheesecake when I wasn't even hungry. And in all these instances, Mr. Mayor, I was grateful for the young lads who braved the elements to deliver me my daily bread. So I did think to myself, Mr. Mayor, when I read the original unamended motion, highlight though it does some serious issues that I will come on to, I did think, let he who has never ordered in cast the first vote. Now, let me be clear. It is absolutely right to call out some of the poor behaviours we've all witnessed from the delivery companies, from Deliveroo, Uber Eats, and certainly from Zap, who my ward colleagues and I have had the most dealings with. And I know Councillor Rossi has covered this in more detail, but very briefly, these include the abuse of residents' parking, the lack of action to prevent their drivers from littering, which leads to grot spots, and the speed at which they wash their hands of any antisocial behaviour by drivers, claiming drivers are contractors, not employees, which just isn't good enough. And if any of their drivers are even aware of the existence of a good book called the Highway Code, I would be surprised. And no one, except my Councillor Rossi and my fellow Redcliffe and councillor colleagues, have done more to bring these companies to task on these issues. But to target the drivers themselves, rather than the companies, as the original motion does, by saying, and I quote, they contribute nothing to our borough, is not fair. And most delivery drivers I've spoken to are friendly, hardworking, and at the end of the day, and it usually is the end of the day when I meet them, they're doing a pretty tough job for not a lot of money to provide a service for residents of this borough and provide a living for their families. That, Mr. Mayor, is why I think it was necessary to amend this motion. Now, I don't doubt that our Liberal Democrat colleagues are far more abstemious than I, and have never indulged in the forbidden fruits of Deliveroo or Uber Eats, and thus neither benefited from their service nor had the opportunity to meet their two-wheeled emissaries. But for those of us who lead less puritanical lives, I hope you will join me in the view that the original motion doesn't get the balance quite right. The amended motion introduced by Councillors Adurian and Hammond, however, does, I think, get the balance right. And it does this by emphasising the primary responsibility of the delivery companies, rather than the drivers, in improving behaviour and ensuring our residents are treated with respect. It also, importantly, identifies the need for a pan-London solution and the lack of leadership from the Mayor of London in achieving this. And finally, it does all this without turning a blind eye to the clear benefits that food deliveries bring to us and our residents. So, Mr. Mayor, I commend the amended motion to the Chamber.
I'll now invite Councillor Taylor-Smith as the lead member to respond to the debate for up to 5 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillors Wade and Verboten, for bringing this motion, and Councillors Greg Hammond and Hamish for changing it. So, quick canter through of all the things. First of all, Tim. So I have to correct you on the period. It was 2 years, not 1 year. I had 2 years of teasing of seeing this motion turn up at each council meeting, and I think when the motion was brought up, the Uber drivers were using penny farthings and horse and cart. But anyway, Linda, your comments about the use of planning is an interesting thought. It's not on my pay grade to comment on whether or not that is feasible or not. You make a point within your motion about these not providing a contribution, and that's something which obviously very much challenge. It's something which Councillor Adurian referred to and acknowledged in his statement, and Councillor Hammond as well, with his shameless plug of Addie's tie, which I will be looking up when I get home, again recognises that this is a service that is very popular and is well used. It's also a service that is providing vital support for our small businesses who are in the food business, sadly who've been ravished by extra national insurance. I'm not getting political, and also obviously in terms of council rate reduction programmes of going from 75 to 40%. These are all businesses that need and will only survive by giving delivery services. Councillor will again acknowledge the Mayor could do more. There's a lot more we can do in terms of legislation. There's legislation coming down through, and again, Tim, you mentioned this in terms of e-bikes and how e-bikes, and then that seems to be the main thing that people are using now in terms of e-bikes. But it's not our prime responsibility. I think also the use of e-bikes illustrates an issue about how we control. It's a matter that raised by Councillor Rossi. It's incredibly different. E-bikes have no number plates. You've got people with balaclavas all dressed in red. You've got also what you have with the Uber drivers is that they're sharing these 12-hour contracts on e-bikes. So they don't have to park them anywhere. They can leave them and switch them over. And I think that's very much a feature of the Uber riders. The terms and conditions, I think the point is well made by Toby, as far as there are appalling terms and conditions, but they are all self-employed. And I think there's a lot that can be done as far as that's concerned. And then finally, all I would say to Councillor Bennett on his confessional is that I forgive you your sins. So running through just quickly, what have we been doing? Well, Councillor Kamali in 2023 brought in more civil enforcement and followed it up in 24 with a recommendation, a KD on 20,000 hours of additional civil enforcement as well, which we can do. Specifically into Earl's Court, we've been doubling the size of the Nevin Place bays, PSPO, which was referred to as well, which came into force in April 2024, and also converting existing bays, which will generate additional 525 spaces. We are trying to do what we can do. I think there are other initiatives which haven't been taken up by both Linda and Tim, in terms of we refuse double yellows and extra bays, and that's something which we can also, look again. I think also, just finally, is that Councillor Rendell and I have met with Deliveroo, and I will continue and take the challenge that's set out in this motion to meet with the operators. But, meeting one operator, we're talking about lots of platforms here, and it really is a difficult thing. And I think to sum up all the summary, it's something that we need more powers as far as London is concerned to deal with. But thank you, and I commend the motion and the amendment.
I will now invite Councillor Durian to respond to the debates for up to 5 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you to colleagues for their response. I just briefly wanted to respond actually to Councillor Benson's point about the nature of the jobs provided. In fact, what I actually said was they provide flexible work, which is something that many people do want for a whole variety of reasons. And I too have spoken to many different people who work in this so-called gig economy, whether it's Uber taxi drivers, delivery staff, staff being the absolute wrong word there. They actually want this sort of flexibility. And there is a legitimate question about the right to work of some of these individuals, a minority, and it is a minority that we're talking about, who behave in this way and puts everybody else in quite a bad light. But it doesn't take away from the fact that the gig economy is here to stay. It is beneficial. Yes, there is a lot more that can be done, certainly by the platforms, with government departments to regulate that a little bit better. But I don't think we should detract from the fundamentals of what it contributes to the economy. Completely take Councillor Will's point as well, that we do need more from the Mayor of London and national government as well to support us on this. But let's see what we can do in our small way as a council. I thank Councillor Taylor-Smith for his remarks as well. Thank you.
I'll now invite Councillor Verboven, as the mover of the original motion, to respond to the debate for up to 5 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to thank all the members for their contributions. There is general support for the motion, which I'm really pleased to hear. There are some things I would like to refute. For instance, that we would not be supporting businesses. That is not the case. We welcome new businesses in our areas. We have very strong relationships with all the businesses in our ward. Actually, Councillor Wade started the Shopfront initiative well before it was taken up by the council. I agree with Councillor Will that indeed the Mayor of London can do more, but there are also things that this council can do more, and that is what we are here to ask for. This motion is about tackling antisocial behaviour. We have a PSPO in our court about antisocial behaviour, and clearly in the last 2 years that hasn't been resolving the problem. It is a matter of social responsibility. Our local businesses have social responsibility towards the residents with whom they live together in our patches. They contribute to our communities, but there are also problems created by this, and that's what we need to tackle here, and that's what the motion is about. Other things that could be done, for instance, Councillor Durian mentioned looking at licensing, someone mentioned looking at planning. We could also contribute CCTV cameras to look at what is actually more CCTV on our streets. It is a matter of working with the platforms, the businesses and the drivers to show that certain behaviour is just simply not acceptable on our street. Certain councillors felt they had to make a dig towards us, but in itself, the amendment to the motion doesn't substantially change our motion, and therefore we're happy to accept it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
In that case, I will first put the amendment to the vote. So would those for the amendment please show hands? And would those against the amendment please show hands? Are there any abstentions? In that case, I declare the amendment carried, and that becomes part of the substantive motion. I'll now put the substantive motion to the vote. Would those in favour please show hands? Would those against please show? And are there any abstentions? In that case, I declare the substantive motion carried. I'm just conscious of time here, so I'm going to ask the whips whether they agree that the meeting can run to 9:45 so we can finish one more motion. It's agreed by Councillor Addenbrooke, looking towards Councillor Lowry.
Mr. Mayor, we're not even at 9 o'clock. I really think we should hear the next motion.
Councillor Lowry?
Thank you.
Yes. In that case, we will proceed to the next motion. Motion 2 is about protecting trees in Holland Park Avenue. With members' consent, we will use the text on page 21 of the additional papers. Do members agree with that? That's agreed. In which case, I'm going to ask Councillor Petit to formally move the motion and Councillor Aretti to second. Councillor.
I wish to move it.
Councillor Aretti?
I wish to second. Yeah.
In that case, I will now invite Councillor Petit to speak for up to 5 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This council acknowledges the ongoing challenges in managing and safeguarding our historic streets and townscape. Recent proposals from TfL for the redesign of the Holland Park roundabout have raised significant concerns regarding their disrespect for local residents' association and, generally speaking, for the democratic process. It has become alarmingly evident that TfL is proceeding without any care, jeopardizing both public safety and our historic environment. The current plan, for those who have looked at it, routes cyclists across a busy roundabout, posing substantial danger and raising the risk of accidents. The design funneling cyclists into Holland Park Avenue ignores safer alternative routes, failing to accommodate those travelling from areas like Shepherd's Bush Green. This ill-conceived approach threatens to exacerbate congestion and surrounding roads and risk pushing more traffic into residential streets, thereby increasing hazards for cyclists and pedestrians. Moreover, we are increasingly worried about the implication of the mayor's new planning powers and the establishment of the mayoral development area around Oxford Street. This top-down approach has previously seen significant alterations made without any local support or proper consultation. We fear that Holland Park Avenue may be subjected to similar disregard and jeopardizing the roadway and the green spaces and trees that contribute to our borough's character. In light of these concerns, it is critical that we take action to protect our environment. Therefore, we call upon the lead member of the public realms to establish a tree protection order, safeguard trees and green spaces along Holland Park Avenue and High Street, Kensington, as a direct response to the worrying trajectory of TfL's actions. Ensure genuine consultation, future planning decisions regarding significant thoroughfares, including the redesign of Holland Park roundabout, must involve meaningful consultation with local residents. Their needs and opinions should be at the forefront of any developments. By taking these measures, we can uphold our community's integrity, protect our historic streets, and ensure that any future developments reflect the will of local residents rather than dictated by top-down mandates. I urge all council members to support this motion in defending our borough against the encroachment of poorly considered plans from TfL and the Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Aretti, do you wish to speak at this point?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, may I thank my friend, my colleague, Councillor Petit, for bringing forward this motion, which is extremely concerning to Nolan, Holland, Pembridge, Camden Ward, and in fact the entire borough, the London City, the UK, and the entire world. Holland Park Roundabout is a strategic route that connects major highways from south to north, that's M4 to A4, east to west, and the latest proposal would create more congestion, pollution, and chaos around the roundabout. As Councillor Petit said, it would push the traffic onto residential streets, which is not safer either. The proposals are without local engagement or interest, so this is against the spirit and integrity of local residents and purely anti-democratic. The residents must have their say before any redesign. Holland Park Avenue is a beautiful street with mature trees which are loved and cherished by local residents. The trees are one of our ancient treasures preserved over a period of time for healthy neighborhoods. Most of our residents, especially when I had engagement with local residents in Holland, are concerned about the TfL intervention by London Mayor. So any draconian actions would undermine the local community's interest, spirit, and sentiments. Any potential loss of trees due to new proposals against the residents' wishes is anti-democratic, unethical, and immoral. We heard earlier, Mr. Mayor, about Mr. Khan from local Councillor Emma Will, and from Kieran of Earlscourt about TFS intervention, undemocratic decisions against local residents' wishes. So, I now have an announcement to make. I'm no less than my friend Councillor Banner. He only had a confession, but I have an announcement to make. It is clear that the London Mayor's decisions are purely anti-democratic, that suits his profile and needs. Hence, I call the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, as Convenient Khan, the new title for our London Mayor. I'm quite pleased that I coined the new name. I think it's quite rhythmic and it suits his convenient decision that he took over a period of time, but not by content. I'm not being political, Mr. Mayor. You, Mayor, not Convenient Khan, by the way. As most of you know, the Mayor's latest proposal on Holland Park a roundabout or recent cycle lanes proposals on Holland Park Avenue had been overwhelmingly opposed by local residents in our borough and from their own party councillors and former MP from neighbouring borough as well. It is clear that the residents want to protect their streets and trees. I would assure and promise my residents in Holland, along with my fellow councillors, that as long as I remain as a councillor, I will be fighting for their concerns. Their voices have been heard on the proposal of before any redesign of Holland Park roundabout. No matter how many measures we take, sometimes we would be vulnerable to mayors' convenient actions and decisions, and so it is imperative to defend our treasures and nature. We need some strict policies and laws that would protect our streets and our community. So I request the lead member for environments to establish, as Councillor Petit put forward the motion, to a tree protection order, to preserve our townscape and unique character, and to open up any genuine consultation. I know it's not within our power to have a consultation, but it would be good to have our own consultation to get the data, because I would never believe TfL's data on this scheme. And so I hope, I request and urge all members to support the motion. Thank you.
I'll now open the motion up for debate. Councillors who have indicated they wish to speak include Councillor North and Councillor Lari. Are there any other members who wish to speak during the debating section? Councillor Jeddart as well. Any other councillors? No. In that case, I'll invite Councillor North to speak. Councillor North.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would first of all like to thank my colleague, Councillor Petit, for bringing this local motion that affects our residents, rather than a motion for a ceasefire in the Middle East. Camden Ward residents are very concerned about TfL's scheme that will directly affect them in Kensington. Of course, we've already seen how TfL and the current Mayor of London listens to local concerns. They don't. Previously, we saw TfL threat of ripping up the historic trees along Holland Park Avenue to impose road narrowing. At a recent meeting called and hosted by us, the councillors of the four most local wards, Holland, Norland, Camden and Pembridge, we presented a united front in full support of our local petition and the residents and the businesses in our local area, asking for TfL to reconsider their plans in favour of a scheme that would not only improve the area, making it safer and less congested, but also would save taxpayers money. But of course, TfL's reply was, and I kid you not, I had this in writing, this was a consultation, not a referendum. Mr. Mayor and council members, may I just address the elephant in the room here? I know that many residents will be looking at this council meeting online, and Camden residents on the doorstep today have told us that they are worried what this current Labour Mayor and TfL have planned for us next. We have all seen how the plan to impose a scheme of our neighbouring borough in Westminster. Residents in Earl's Court this evening have told us how TfL imposed their unpopular traffic congestion and build-outs on Earl's Court Road. More pollution, petitions and representations by councillors or resident associations, all ignored. Camden Ward covers much of Kensington High Street. Can they really trust this Labour Mayor of London, TfL, not to impose similar schemes to cause more congestion here? The new Labour MP is unclear, at least. Does he support the Labour Mayor of London, or does he listen to local residents? In 12 months' time, residents here will have a very clear choice. Do they trust their Conservative candidates who will listen to local residents and represent their views, or do they risk a Labour candidate who will undoubtedly follow the party line, the MP, against the views of local business and groups? And finally, I know many of my colleagues are always keen to hear what the Camden Ward Senior Citizens Lunch Club have to say on this subject. So I asked them. All of them live close to Holland Park Avenue and Kensington High Street. Many have lived here in this borough for a very long time. And I too have an admission to make. Betty, who celebrates her 101st birthday this month, has asked me to pass on her views to the Council tonight, and she expects me to report back to her on the decision of this Council and when the Lunch Club next meets for its VE Day celebration in May. Now, Betty says that for all the seniors, and says that they expect all councillors to support this motion to protect the trees and not to let TfL override the wishes of local Kensington residents. So, Betty, and all the respected Camden Ward seniors, and indeed all Camden residents, please know that your views are listened to, and please know that this council hears your voice. I support this motion and its resident-led campaign. Many will be watching tonight to see that this motion gets its council's full support. Thank you.
I'll now call upon Councillor Lowry to speak. Councillor Lowry.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, I don't actually have a speech prepared. I just want to say a few words. In the last municipal cycle, when residents came to the council with their petition against the proposal for a cycle lane on Holland Park, on the grounds, amongst others, that it would eliminate the trees lining Holland Park, I was one of the primary speakers in response to the residents. I can't remember who spoke on the majority group side, but I was the second speaker, and we as Labour Group supported them. And we did so on the basis of protecting trees which contribute to the environment, amongst a few other issues. Now, however, that doesn't absolve our responsibility as mature local councillors, representatives of our constituents, to sit at the table and have difficult conversations sometimes with those in a higher local authority than us. My disappointment with this motion is that it includes various incendiary remarks towards the Mayor of London, which are not necessary, including comments about schemes in other local authorities. And Councillor Kamali, as our lead member for planning, in an ideal situation would be in a position to sit down with the Mayor, sit down with TfL representatives, and have a rational conversation and convey concerns our residents have to the Mayor, to TfL reps, so that perhaps the scheme may be amended in some way to accommodate those concerns. Now the way that shouldn't be done is by, at the same time, going about making these sort of unnecessary, childish, petty comments in public. It really undermines your argument. And that's certainly not the way we operated last time. I mean, we as a Labour Group have the ability to, at the same time, maintain our membership of political parties, but have rational conversations and come to independently minded conclusions, as we did with the Holland Park cycle lane a few years ago. But the way you're doing this, in this case, is frankly wrong, immature. And when it comes to the framework for consultations, I'm impressed that there are councillors on the majority group who believe that consultations is important. It's part of our charter for public participation. However, if you want to do it, be consistent. So, for example, on all the, let's say, planning applications that we've spoken about, where we've spoken about resident association concerns, Councillor Kamali, you've often stood up, as you've done today, and you have difficulty acknowledging concerns from resident associations because you believe, in general, that support for development outweighs arguments against, even if it comes from local residents. So I think we need to be consistent and acknowledge that all concerns from our local residents are valid, irrespective of the application that they're on. And we shouldn't just nitpick and make political points out of things just because it's convenient for us. So I think that's the main point I wanted to make. I will, and the Labour Group will always support public consultation, support our residents' positions. However, we cannot support this particular motion because of the incendiary and unnecessary way it has been phrased. I really hope that in future, if you want to achieve anything against a, let's say, mayor of a different political persuasion to you, approach it in a more mature fashion.
I'll now invite Councillor Jeddart to speak. Councillor Jeddart.
Thank you. I just want to make a small contribution. The council is responsible for the council-run estate, including greening, shrubs, trees, sats. There is no policy protecting trees growing on the council-run estate. We're not talking here about TfL Street. It's a council-run estate. You are the leaders to make sure that this policy on equality, climate crisis is implemented. Quite the opposite. The trees have been felled without consultation with the residents who are paying council tax. Timber has been systematically removed, to my knowledge, by 3 wise men, and no profit is added to any council account or added to a estate improvement budget. This has been fully brought to your attention by Resident Association a few times, and you just simply ignored it. It is quite upsetting to see the Conservative-led council to try to save trees in one part of the borough, but ignore another part of the borough, like North Kensington. And you are fully aware about Warrington trees issue we faced not long time ago. You're also fully aware of London Plain having huge impact on equality and biodiversity, and you are fully aware about lifespan in North Kensington and in South. With this knowledge, you are coming with this proposal to save trees in one part, and you are not coming with anything else to protect trees in general in the borough, and you are not engaging with residents who are making very clear to you, we have an issue that our trees are stolen. I have many residents who claim trees are stolen, meaning no notice are given and trees disappear. In this case, residents are more than happy to support anything to save the trees, including those growing on Holland Avenue, which are incredible assets from a landscape point of view, from aesthetics, historical inheritance there. And thank you for trying at least to do something for these trees in this part of the borough, which possibly we will enjoy all. Thank you.
Councillor Dentcode has also indicated she wishes to speak. Councillor Dentcode.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just so very glad that Councillor Lowry said pretty much what I was thinking. I was absolutely 100% convinced I was going to support this motion because we have to protect our absolutely gorgeous Holland Park Avenue. It's one of our finest streets. I have spoken about it before, including to the TfL team years ago in a different role. And thank heavens we won it at that stage. But similarly, as the debate ensued, and there were these childish comments, and then including other things, you know, if a new plan comes for putting a cycle route down Kensington High Street that works for people and doesn't have everyone up in arms, I'm most likely to support it on its merits. Holland Park Avenue, I would not support on its merits because I know what it involves. But all the other things that have been involved actually have completely ruined this motion for me. So I'm a bit stuck. Basically, I will not support the plans for the Holland Park roundabout, but I can't support this motion. So I'm a bit stuck. I'm going to abstain, but I will always stick by my principles on Holland Park Avenue. Thank you.
And Councillor Simmons, you wish to speak as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to speak, but I just wanted to say a couple of things following on from what Councillor Lowry has said about consistency, and also what Councillor Jeddart has just been telling us about there. This week I made a representation on behalf of my residents to delay the very vigorous pruning of some trees on Lancaster Road, which were just coming into bud, as it were, their leaves. And we are supposed to be in Nottingdale one of the biggest eco neighbourhood. Thanks very much to the London Mayor. However, my representation to delay the pruning by 1 year so that we could enjoy the leaf of the trees seemed to fall upon deaf ears, and they have now, I can say, been pollarded to within an inch of their lives. So I think there is a very valid point there about the council and its leadership making sure that it is consistent. And I also want to say just very quickly that while we're talking about things which are anti-democratic, unfair and immoral, I think this council is on rather thin ice, especially when we're talking about consultations, when we're talking about which residents it is safe to ignore and which residents we choose to listen to. I hope that nobody in this chamber has forgotten the Grenfell Tower inquiry report and its findings in terms of how it treats its residents. And I think it's a little bit unseemly, some of the contributions we have heard in the chamber this evening, having the nerve in the Grenfell Council with its history and with the findings of the inquiry report, to talk about consultation and not listening to residents, because members in this chamber should know better than almost anyone the history of this council, the recent history, and the appalling consequences of not listening to residents. So I think the word I'm thinking of here is hypocrisy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I also, Councillor Wade and Councillor Kamali both indicating they wish to speak. So I'll turn to Councillor Wade first. Councillor.
This is very short. I would just like to know how important trees are to the Mayor of London. We're talking about Holland Park, and we've discussed that in some detail. But actually, on the site in Abingdon, in Tesco's site, they actually removed a number of trees which were of an enormous amenity value. Again, alongside West Cromwell Road, which is probably one of the most polluted roads in London. So you have to query whether or not we actually have a tree hugger in Mr. Khan. If they can do that, they can probably sanction any tree along the strategic road network. And so this is a major concern. I know that our borough cultural officers really did fight to keep the trees. So I think we need to ask the Mayor, do you like trees? Thank you.
And Councillor Kamali. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, it'll be Councillor Thalasita summing it. Just very conscious of time, so I won't speak for very long, but it's been a long time waiting to get this motion here, so I figured I should say something. My email inbox doth overflow with resident objections to the proposal for Holland Park Roundabout. We have to make sure that we do not find ourselves waking up one day to Sadiq Khan taking over our roads. We have to put in the measures here and now so that he does not get any bright ideas. He's already taken his Labour colleagues for a bit of a spin and decided to pedestrianise a road that I don't think they were planning to, but who knows how that's going to turn out when the local elections come around in a few months. I suspect not very well for them. We've discussed it today, what happens when TfL control roads, and even Councillor Wade highlights the fact that they simply don't seem to care about the public realm or about our trees. So as a borough that does care, we're going to make sure we give up not 1 inch, not one blade of grass, leaf or square inch of asphalt to Sadiq Khan. We simply can't. Thank you.
Thank you. If no further contributions to the debate forthcoming from members, I will invite Councillor Thalasites as the lead member to respond to the debate for up to 5 minutes. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've spoken many times over many years in the four walls of this town hall about how important it is to save the trees on Holland Park Avenue. We've had lots of people in the chamber talk about their roles in that campaign. I was proud to make the decision on behalf of all of the local Conservatives in this chamber to stop the Mayor of London from felling all of our trees. It's a famous boulevard that we must protect. I know just how much people value these trees too. I've spent time with SOS and resident associations. I've spent time with our businesses, including the famous Lydgates, discussing all of these issues. And when I've been canvassing, as I do almost every day at the moment, I have been overflowing with complaints and all sorts of overwhelmingly strong objections to this crazy plan the Mayor has. We've heard from Labour representatives tonight, but even after 4 minutes, I was pretty much no clearer where Labour stood from you, Sina. You tied yourself in knots, trying not to offend the Mayor of London, from whom your party resides, but also not to offend the residents on whose votes you're going to try and count next year. Our former MP refuses to protect the trees this time. I suppose now that she doesn't have a mandate in Kensington, she's going to be abstaining. I suspect our new MP is probably going to be just like her and fail to protect the trees. My real question is similar to Linda's. Can we count on our new MP to help us protect these trees? I suspect not. Will he support our motion as we go forward? Probably not. He won't want to offend the Mayor of London either. I say 3 cheers for our new protection order. I call on all members across the chamber to help us finish the job that we started in 2019. We cannot have the Labour Mayor taking over control of our roads. It's been the running theme of tonight. We can see that every time he gets his hands on anything in Kensington and Chelsea, he makes it worse.
Councillor Lowry wishes to catch my eye. Councillor.
Standing Order 28, could Councillor Thalasitis please, I'm not going to ask him to withdraw, but the remarks he made about our position, as I suspect other councillors' position, was incorrect. I think we've explained ourselves very clearly. Our MP will never lower himself to your standards to vote for a motion like this. So no, he will not be engaging in debate with you.
Can I ask them, do Labour support protecting our trees? Is the Labour position to support protecting trees on Holland Park Avenue or not? Will they vote for that tonight? Will they vote? Will they vote for that tonight? Moment of truth.
Councillors,
12 months to go.
We are going to move on with this motion, and I'm going to call upon Councillor Petit to sum up, as it is her motion that she's moving. Councillor Petit.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for participating. It is a local issue. I need to stand up. It is a local issue, but it's also a moral issue. Are you going to go home and say to your children that you didn't vote in support of the trees of Holland Park Avenue?
Yeah. Councillors, please. Councillors, we're going to put the motion to a vote. Would those for the motion please show? Would those against the motion please show? Councillors, please. Councillors. Now, do we have any abstentions? Please, let's keep it civil. Do we have any abstentions? No abstentions. In that case, I declare the motion carried. Councillors, we're going to move on. Item 16 is appointments to committees and outside organisations. There are no appointments to the Council to make. Item 17 is urgent business. There is none. In which case, that concludes the business of this evening's meeting of the Council. The next meeting of the Council is the annual Council meeting, scheduled to be held on the 21st of May 2025, starting at 6:30 p.m. Good evening.